With him we win. He's our champion. With him we can't lose. We always win. He's our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like him. With him we win. He's our champion. With him we can't lose. We always win. He's our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can't lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can't lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can't lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can't lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can't lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can't lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can't lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can't lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can't lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can't lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can't lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can't lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can't lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can't lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can't lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can't lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome Yah. you we can't lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome Yah. There is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. You we can lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome Yah. And there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome Yah. And there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome Yah. And there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome Yah. And there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can lose. We always win. You're our champion. Hallelujah, hallelujah. We stand together this great rising as we come together to celebrate and commemorate this our Sabbath rest. A time that we come to rest and also a time that we come to learn. It is important that we understand and that we hold fast to know that He is our champion.
That's right.
He is my champion. And when you understand rest in Him, even when it looks like all hell breaking loose and look like everything is happening that could possibly happen, we still need to maintain our composure and we still need to maintain our belief in Him because He will never leave us, neither will He forsake us. And so on this day, that is what we come to do. We come to rest our hearts, our minds, our emotions. We come to rest everything. Believe it or not, you even rest your finances. Because on this day, I believe this is one of the days in society that it is the day that people spend the most and it's the time that people go out and do the most stuff. But because we are following the Sabbath and we are following the instructions and the commands of Abba Yah, we help to make sure that our money stays within us and within our pockets. Because we want to walk in complete and total obedience. And it is so. And it is so. And it is so. Once again, you have to understand at this time, this day, we get a rest, we give our finances also. So I do thank Abba Yah for instructions and wisdom. As we've gathered together this time, we want to begin with the Baruch of the Torah. Repeat with me. Baruch Yahuwah.
Baruch Yahuwah.
The Baruch one.
The Baruch one.
Baruch is Yahuwah.
Baruch is Yahuwah.
The Baruch one.
The Baruch one.
For all eternity.
For all eternity.
Baruch atah.
Baruch atah.
Yahuwah.
Yahuwah.
Our supreme one.
Our supreme one.
King of the universe.
King of the
Who
universe.
selected us from all the peoples.
Who selected us from all the peoples.
And gave us his Torah.
And gave us his Torah.
Baruch atah.
Baruch atah.
Yahuwah.
Yahuwah.
Giver of the Torah.
Giver of the Torah.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Baruch atah.
Baruch atah.
Yahuwah.
Yahuwah.
Our supreme one. King of the universe.
King of the universe.
Who gave us the Torah of truth.
Who gave us the Torah of truth.
And implanted eternal life.
And implanted eternal life.
Within us.
Within us.
Baruch atah.
Baruch atah.
Yahuwah.
Yahuwah.
Giver of the Torah.
Giver of the Torah.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. We will now have the reading of the commandments by Apostle Brown, coming from Leviticus chapter 5, verses 6 to 19. And it is so.
And it is so. Everyone has said about scriptures. Aleph, I am Yahuwah, your power, which brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, from the bed of slavery. Bet, you shall have no other power before me. You shall not make you any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in Shemayim above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the Mayim beneath the earth. You shall not bow down yourself unto them nor serve them, for I, Yahuwah, your power, am a jealous power, visiting the iniquity of the hours upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Gimel, you shall not take the name of Yahuwah your power and falsify it, for Yahuwah will not hold him guiltless that takes his name and empties it. Dalet, mark the Sabbath day to set it apart, as your power has commanded you. 6 days shall you labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of Yahuwah your power. In it you shall not do any work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your manservant, nor your maidservant, nor your ox, nor your ass, nor any of your cattle, nor your foreigner that is within your gates, that your manservant and your maidservant may rest as well as you. And remember that you were a servant in the land of Mitzrayim, and that Yahuwah your power brought you out of there through a mighty hand and by his stretched out arm. Therefore Yahuwah your power commanded you to keep the Sabbath day. Hey, honor your father and your mother, as Yahuwah your power has commanded you, that your days may be prolonged and that it may go well with you in the land which Yahuwah your power is about to give you. While you shall not murder. Zain, neither shall you commit adultery. Ket, neither shall you steal. Tet, neither shall you bear false witness against your neighbor. You, neither shall you desire your neighbor's wife, neither shall you covet your neighbor's bed, his field, or his manservant, or his maidservant, his ox, or his ass, or anything that is your neighbor's. These words Yahuwah spoke unto all your assembly in the mount out of the midst of the fire, of the cloud, and of the thick darkness with a great voice. And he added no more. And he wrote them in 2 tables of stone and delivered them unto me. And it is so.
And it is so. And it is so. Yahusha, the son of Nun. Come on, give him praise. Yahusha, the son of Nun, chapter 1, verse 7 and 8. Only be you strong and very courageous, that you may observe to do according to the Torah, all that Moshe, my servant, commanded you. Turn not from it to the right hand or to the left hand, that you may prosper wherever you go. Verse 8, as I've stated it for our time of personal confession, repeat with me. I will not let this scroll of the Torah,
I will not let the scroll of the Torah
depart out of my mouth,
depart out of my mouth,
but I shall meditate on it,
but I shall meditate on it
day and night,
day and night,
that I may observe to do,
that I may observe to do
according to all that is written in it.
according to all that is written in it.
For then I shall make my way prosperous,
So then I shall make my way prosperous,
and act wisely,
and act wisely,
and act wisely.
and act wisely.
Now look at your neighbor and tell your neighbor, and you shall act wisely,
And you shall act wisely.
Look at your other neighbor and tell your other neighbor, and you shall act wisely, and you shall act wisely. Now take your hand and place your hand over your heart and say, Abba Yahuwah,
Abba Yahuwah,
I shall act wisely.
I shall act
Come on, I
wisely.
shall act wisely.
I shall act wisely.
I endeavor
to
act wisely.
act wisely.
I endeavor
to
act wisely.
act wisely.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. It is important that we endeavor to act wisely every day of our lives. Let us have another song, please. All I need is a touch from you. No one else can do the things you do. Take the wrong in my life and make it right. All I need is a touch from you. All I need is a touch from you. All I need is a touch from you. No one else can do the things you do. Take the wrong in my life and make it right. All I need is a touch from you. All I need is a touch from you. Oh, come on. All I need is a touch from you. No one else can do the things you do. Take the wrong in my life and make it right. All I need is a touch from you. All I need is a touch from you. All I need is a touch from you. No one else can do the things you do. Take the wrong in my life and make it right. All I need is a touch from you. All I need is a touch from you. All I need is a touch from you. No one else can do the things you do. Take the wrong in my life and make it right. All I need is a touch from you. All I need is a touch from you. All I want is a touch from you. No one else can do the things you do. Take the wrong is a touch from you. All I want is a touch from you. All I want is a touch from you. No one else can do the things you do. Take the wrong in our life and make it right. All I want is a touch from you. All I want is a touch from you. Come on, sing it. All I want is a touch from you. No one else can do the things you do. Take the wrong in our life and make it right. All I want is a touch from you. All I want is a touch from you. All I want is a touch from you. No one else can do the things you do. Take the wrong in our life and make it right. All I want is a touch from you. All I want is a touch from you. All I want is a touch from you. No one else can do the things you do. Take the wrong in my life and make it right. All I want is a touch from you. All I want is a touch from you. No one else can do the things you do. Take wrong in my life. Give praise and esteem this great rising. We want to turn our attention to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6, verses 1 through 14. These are the commandments, the statutes, and the judgments which Yahuwah your power commanded to teach you, that you might do them in the land where you are going to enter and possess it, that you might fear Yahuwah your power to keep all his statutes and his commandments, which I command you, you and your son and your grandson, all the days of your life, and that your days may be prolonged. Hear therefore, O Yisrael, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as Yahuwah power of your Abbas has promised you in the land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Yisrael, Yahuwah our supreme one, Yahuwah is God. Shema Yisrael, Yahuwah our power, Yahuwah our power is, Yahuwah our supreme one is our power, and it is so. And you shall love Yahuwah your supreme one with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart. And you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your bed, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be frontlets between your eyes, to foreform, bind upon your mind. Not your eye, but your mind.
Right.
He never said anything about the third eye. Between your eyes, where your mind is. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
So many people want to be talking about a third eye. And you shall write them upon the posts of your bed and on your gates. And it shall be when Yahuwah your power shall have brought you forth in the land which he swore unto your Abbas, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give you great and goodly cities which you did not build, and houses full of all good things which you filled not, and wells dug which you did not dig, vineyards and olive trees which you did not plant. When you shall have eaten and be full, then beware lest you forget Yahuwah which brought you forth out of the land of Mitzrayim, from the bed of slavery. You shall fear Yahuwah your power and serve him, and shall swear by his name. You shall not go after the power of the people which are round about you. For Yahuwah your power is a jealous power among you, lest the anger of Yahuwah your power be kindled against you, and he destroy you from off the face of the earth. You shall not tempt Yahuwah your power as you tempted him in Massah. You shall diligently keep the commandments of Yahuwah your power and his testimonies and his statutes, which he has commanded you. And you shall do that which is right and good in the sight of Yahuwah, that it may be well with you, and that you may go in and possess the good land which Yahuwah swore unto your fathers. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Let's have a song, please.
Yahuwah, you're awesome. Yahuwah, you're great. Yahuwah, you're worthy. And you're worthy to be praised. I'll magnify your name. All heavens and the earth will proclaim your grace. Yahuwah, you're awesome. Yahuwah, you're great. Yahuwah, you're worthy. And worthy to be praised. I'll magnify your name. All heavens and the earth will proclaim your grace. Yahuwah, you're awesome. Yahuwah, you're great. Yahuwah, you're worthy. And worthy to be praised. I'll magnify your name. All heavens and the earth will proclaim your grace. Yahuwah, you're awesome. Yahuwah, you're great. Yahuwah, you're worthy. And you're worthy to be praised. I'll magnify your name. All heavens and the earth will proclaim your grace. Yahuwah, you're awesome. Yahuwah, you're great. Yahuwah, you're worthy. And you're worthy to be praised. I'll magnify your name. All heaven and the earth will proclaim your grace. Yahuwah, you're awesome. Yahuwah, you're great. Yahuwah, you're worthy. And praise. I'll magnify your name. On heaven and the earth will proclaim your grace. You are your awesome. You are your great. You are your worthy. Worthy to be praised. I'll magnify your name. All heavens and the earth will proclaim your grace. You are your awesome. You are your great. You are your worthy. And you're worthy to be praised. I'll magnify your name. All heavens and the earth will proclaim your grace.
Hallelujah, hallelujah. You're worthy, you're worthy. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Come on, praise him. Hallelujah. 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 I'll magnify your name. All heaven and earth shall proclaim your grace. Yah, you are worthy. Yah, you are awesome. Come on, help me. Come on. You're worthy to be praised.
I'll magnify your name. All heavens and the earth will proclaim your grace. Yahuwah, you're awesome.
Come on, let him know, let him know.
Yahuwah, you're great. Yahuwah, you're worthy.
Come on, everybody singing, sing to him.
Worthy to be praised. I'll magnify your name. All heavens and the earth will proclaim your grace.
Come on, again.
Yahuwah, you're awesome. Yahuwah, you're great. Yahuwah, you're worthy. And you're worthy to be praised. I'll magnify your name. All heavens and the earth will proclaim your grace.
Come on, one more time.
Yahuwah, you're awesome. Yahuwah, you're great. Yahuwah, you're worthy. And you're worthy to be praised. I'll magnify your name. All heavens and the earth proclaim your grace.
Come on, now let him know he's great. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah. No matter what you made. Hallelujah, hallelujah. I I'll magnify your name. It's important that we magnify him. It's important that we praise him. It's important that we show him we love him. Talk is cheap. Actions speak louder than words. And we have to understand he inhabits the praises of his people. He inhabits our praises. And that's why it's important that we praise him more, because we want him to tabernacle in us, with us, and in everything we do. And praise is that key. He loves praise.
That's right. That's right.
He loves praise.
That's right.
And so it's important that we praise him. He said, make a joyful noise. And it's important that we understand that.
Yes.
I can't sing like you three, but I still like to sing. I tell you, I love him though. We magnify him. We magnify him. And we ought to do what people can see and know that we love him.
That's right.
Are you hearing me?
Yes.
It's important that we understand that, and that we declare through our lifestyle that we love him. It's important that we understand that. I love that song. All heaven shall proclaim your great. You know, we are a part of that. And as we proclaim his greatness, guess what? He acknowledges us.
That's right.
He acknowledges us. And so it's important that we praise him. Once again, there is no instructions against praising him. And I know people have their certain definitions and what they believe praise is and what they believe and how we're supposed to do it. But I believe that when you love somebody, when you love something, you praise it. And I love him. I love him more than life itself. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. More than life itself. Excuse me, Mishlei 15:8, the sacrifice of the wicked is an abomination, hateful and exceedingly offensive unto you, our Yahuwah. But the prayer of the upright is your delight. Mishlei 3:4, so shall you find good understanding and high esteem in the sight of judgment of Yahuwah and man. And it is so.
And it is so.
Tehillim 34:15, the eyes of Yahuwah are upon the upright, and his ears are open unto our cry. Verse 17, the upright cry, and Yahuwah heareth and delivereth us out of all our troubles. Acts 1:8, but we shall receive power. After that, the Ruach HaKodesh has come upon us, and we shall be witnesses unto him both in Jerusalem and all Judea and in Shamar and unto the uttermost parts of the earth. Always remember that we are a witness. We are to testify through our lives, through our actions, through our praise and worship, that he is the Mashiach. We are supposed to testify, and it is supposed to be expressed through our life living. And so it's important that we understand that and that we remember that. Tehillim 1:1. Barut is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the unrighteous, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful, but his delight is in the instructions of Yahuwah. Abram 11:6, but without belief it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to Yahuwah must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. Diligently seek him. It takes belief to be odd, obedient, diligent, discipline. Ayah 33:4, the Ruach HaKodesh of Yahuwah hath made me, and the breath of the Almighty hath given me life. Micah 4:8, but truly I am full of power by the Ruach HaKodesh of Yahuwah and of judgment, and of might to declare unto Yaakov transgression, and to Yasrael his sin. And it is so.
And it is so.
Yehukin and Aleph chapter 5:4-5, for whatsoever is born of Yahuwah overcometh the world, and this is the victory that overcometh the world, even our belief. Who is he that overcometh the world, but he that believeth that Yahushua is the Son of Yahuwah? Yehukin and Aleph 2:5-6, for whoever keeps his word, truly the love of Yahuwah is expected in him, the Torah. By this we know that we are in him. He who says he abides in him ought himself also to walk just as he walked. Verse 17, and the world passes away and the lust thereof, but he that doeth the will of Yahuwah abideth forever. Somebody say abideth forever.
Abideth forever.
Say it again, abideth forever.
Abideth forever.
And it is so. And it is for us having so, please.
Yahuwah, I lift your name on high. Yahuwah, I love to sing your praises. I'm so glad you're in my life. I'm so glad you came to save us. Yahuwah, I lift your name on high. Yahuwah, I love to sing your praises. I'm so glad you're in my life. I'm so glad you came to save us. Yahuwah, I lift your name on high. Yahuwah, I love to sing your praises. I'm so glad you're in my life. I'm so glad you came to save us. You came from heaven to earth to show the way, from the earth to the state. My debt you paid, from the state to the grave, from the grave to the sky. Yahuwah, I lift your name on high. Yahuwah, I love to sing your praises. I'm so glad you're in my life. I'm so glad you came to save us. You came from heaven to earth to show the way, from the earth to the state. My debt you paid, from the state to the grave, from the grave to the sky. Yahuwah, I lift your name on high. Yahuwah, I love to sing your praises. I'm so glad you're in my life. I'm so glad you came to save us. Yahuwah, I lift your name on high. Yahuwah, I love to sing your praises. I'm so glad you're in my life. I'm so glad you came to save us. You came from heaven to earth to show the way, from the earth to the state. My debt you paid, from the state to the grave, from the grave to the sky. Yahuwah, I lift your name on high. Yahuwah, I love to sing your praises. I'm so glad you're in my life. I'm so glad you came to save us. You came from heaven to earth to show the way, from the earth to the state. My debt you paid, from the state to the grave, from the grave to the sky. Yahuwah, I lift your name on high. 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 You came from heaven to earth to show the way, from the earth to the state. My debt you paid, from the state to the grave, from the grave to the sky. Yahuwah, I lift your name on high. 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 You came from heaven to earth to show the way, from the earth to the state. My debt you paid, from the state to the grave, from the grave to the sky. Yahuwah, I lift your name on high. Yahuwah, I love to sing your praises. I'm so glad you're in my life. I'm so glad you came to save us. Yahuwah, I lift your name on high. Yahuwah, I love to sing your praises. I'm so glad you're in my life. I'm so glad you came to save us. You came from heaven. state. My debt you pay. From the state to the grave. From the grave to the sky. You I lift your name on high. 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 You came from heaven to earth to show the way. From the earth to the state, my debt you pay. From the state to the grave, from the grave to the sky. You I lift your name on high. 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 Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
Deuteronomy chapter 11, verses 13 through 21. And it shall come to pass, if you listen carefully to my commandments, which I command you this day, to love you with your power, and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul, that I will give you the rain of your land in his due season, the first rain and the latter rain, that you may gather in your corn and your wine and your oil. And I will send grass in your fields for your cattle, you may eat and be full. Take heed to yourselves that your heart be not deceived, and you turn idols of power and worship them. And then Yahuwah's wrath united against you. And he shut up Shemaiah, that there be no rain, and that the land yield not her fruit, unless you perish quickly from off the good land which Yahuwah gives you. Therefore shall you lay up these my words in your heart and in your soul, and bind them for a sign upon your hand, that they may be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall teach them your children, speaking of them when you sit in your bed, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall write them upon the doorposts of your bed, and upon your gates, that your days may be multiplied, and the days of your children in the land which Yahuwah swore unto your fathers, to give them as the days of Shemaiah upon the earth. For if you shall carefully keep all these commandments which I command you, to do them, to love Yahuwah your power, to walk in all his halakha, and to cling unto him. And it is so. And it is so. It's important that we understand the promises that he's given unto us. It's important that we understand. Somebody may ask why I don't read the verse 23. Is because first and foremost we've got to get 22. Because until we get that, then we won't be able to see the enemies driven out of our land. Though we may not occupy it yet, it's important that we understand that we develop and living and keeping on his halakha, his commandments, following with all of them. Not some of them, not just the ones we think or feel that are easier and easy for us to live by, but all of them, because it is a command that we live and that we carefully observe them, not just raggedy or frivolously, but we keep them and we love what he does. And it is so. And it is so. And it is so. All right, at this time we're going to do our declaration. We have two declarations that I want to do on today. And it is so. And it is so. This is a declaration of healing and shalom. Repeat with me, Abba Yahuwah, in the name of Yahusha, Hamashiach. We subdue ignorance, with Torah knowledge. And through this knowledge, of Torah truth, we claim healing, shalom, deliverance, and salvation. We decree Torah truth, in the lives of your people, our people, Yisrael. We unite, not to fight, each other, but the enemy, of our belief. Repeat this with me. We subdue Ignorance, with Torah knowledge. We arrest, hate with Torah love. We release, Torah truth, to the four extremities, of the earth. Where Ibram reside. We declare, healing, deliverance to the body of Yahusha. To the body of Yahuwah, through Yahusha, our Mashiach. And it is so. And it is so. This is another portion of our declaration. We want to make sure that the Torah is released and that we subdue hatred with Torah love, and that we subdue ignorance with Torah knowledge. It is the only way that we're going to develop and that we will be able to live with one another. It is important that we understand that. And it is so. As we've come to this portion of our class, once again, as we come before our Abba Yah to declare and decree through confession, I've come to understand repetition and confession and meditation is so pertinent and so important to our lives. It is how we learn. It is how we develop. It is how we grow. So on today, as we prepare, let us bow before our King as we recite this. Repeat with me. May the utterance of my mouth, and the deliberation of my heart, be desirable before you. O Yahuwah, my rock, and my redeemer. May the utterance of my mouth, and the deliberation of my heart, be desirable before you. O Yahuwah, my rock, and my redeemer. And it is so. We have just recited Tehillim 19 and 15, and it is so. You may be seated in His presence as we take up from on last night. As the theme on this week is Kiye Sarah, the life of Sarah. One of the things that we learned so much on last night. We saw things, I know I saw things that were devastating and heartbreaking to see our people once again be folded and be blindsided by the enemy. It's important that we understand that if we're going to live for Him, we got to believe Him even in tough and hard times. When things come to challenge our emotions and challenge even the very precepts and the way we live, it's important that we understand these things. And so, just to give a preview of what we talked about on last night, we talked about the life, once again, of Sarah. We also talked about Ishmael and how it's important that we understand that there are certain things that we know could not have taken place. One, he was cast out because he was the son of the bondwoman and because he was of the flesh and out of the ruach. And so it's important that we understand that this was not just something done and then it was overturned. No, Yahuwah agreed with Sarah when she said cast her out, or cast him and his mother out. And so it is with that we've come to understand that there are some things that we read, and sometimes when we read them, we have to really once again allow the Torah, the set apart writings to be burned into not just our minds but also in our hearts, so that when we read things, we can go back and say, hey, wait a minute. That's not that that doesn't support the writings. And the writings definitely don't support this theory. Because once again, you have to understand, Isaac being about maybe say 16 or 17, that would have made Ishmael anywhere from 21 or 22. And because we've come to understand that it wasn't in his heart to live by the covenant, there's no way that he would have been there and that things would have been full of shalom, because it wasn't in his heart to follow it. And because Yahuwah said that he would not have a part in it, but he said he would not forget it. Now, mind you, the prophecy that he had given unto his mother, that he would be a wild man, and that his hand would be against all men, and all men would be against him, and that he would be an archer. In other words, he would be one who would be skilled with that hope. And so we've come to understand, once again, it's important that when we study, when we read, that we always keep the scriptures, the writings burned in our heart. So when we come across something that is a discrepancy, we will know how to research it and know how to go back and say, wait a minute, I read this, but this doesn't follow up with this. This does not support this. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
It's important that we understand that. Why? Because you'll be reading stuff and you'll be reading literature and you'll be reading other things that go with it. And if it does not support it, we cannot accept it. Because now you start falling in the traditions of who? The traditions of men. Once again, you have to understand, and this is why I believe that when you read certain portions, and I would not suggest it, neither would I advise it. When people read in the Quran, this is why they felt like when Abraham went to offer up Isaac, remember they said Abrahamism, because we know Jeroboam is the one who started that. But then there's also in history where the Muslims believe that Abraham sacrificed or attempted to sacrifice Ishmael. It's easy to come to that conclusion when you read stuff like that. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Easy to come to, because all it takes is for somebody to duplicate it, but duplicate it in the manner that they want you to understand it or want you to believe what took place. And so once again, the writings does not support Ishmael being there. The set apart writings do not support him being there. So it's important that we understand, once again, what is truth versus what is facts. Facts change, but truth will never change. Truth always remains the same. And so we found out, and we see even in this, there is a part of business. Once again, I know people a lot of times think that when you become, when you start walking in truth, that there are certain things that this way and we don't follow after and we don't do. But let me tell you something. Yahuwah is an Abba of business. He handles business. Everything he does has a business undertone to it. Are you hearing me? When we understand true business. I ain't talking about a shyster. I ain't talking about a crook or a criminal. I'm talking about a true business, Abba, the true nature of business. And so it is through Abraham that Abraham, when he gets into when we read chapter 23, and it is time, and he gets with Ephron, and he begins to talk to them about buying land. He wanted to buy a parcel. He wanted to buy a place because he wanted to bury his wife Sarah there. And so they wanted to give it to him. You have to understand there are times that we all receive gifts, and then there are times that you are not to receive it as a gift. Because later on through scripture, you're going to find out that it was important that he bought that land instead of having to give it to him. Because you have to understand, they had things written out. They had contracts too. They had contracts. Some of the contracts were verbal and some of the contracts were written. But it's important that we understand that at that time for him, it was important that he bought that land and not just was given it. He paid 400 silver shekels, which I believe came out of that, which was given unto Sarah, 1,000, I believe it was, 1,000 silver shekels. And so it's important that we understand it was important to him to make sure that she had the proper burial. We understand that the way that she died, once again, when you read in the writings, we only see that at 127 years of age is that she just expired. She died. Well, you have to understand there are things that took place that caused her to die. And sometimes, if we're not careful, we can find ourselves being in that same position. Why? Because let me tell you something. Fear is a friend to no one.
That's right.
Fear is a friend to no one. Fear will kill you. And when it don't, and I believe this is crazy. Some we was watching on Yom Shishi last night. We were watching some things where people were on roller coasters where they were on a slingshot. And I believe that when people pass out, that is almost a taste of death because you lose consciousness and you have no control of it. Now, what if you stop breathing? What if you bump your head? Or what if something happens? You could die because you become unconscious. Not because you caused yourself to be unconscious, but there was something in that happened. Remember when when the enemy, when Shaitan told her that he was dead, that he was a sacrifice, and how she wept and she cried and she laid in her maiden's bosom and she became as a stone. I believe she passed out because she had no consciousness. And that, therefore, as she was there and she became as a stone, it meant she had no movement. It meant that she had nothing that was taking place at that time. And so when she came out of it, she got up and immediately started moving. We seen the same thing with these crazy people on there. The slingshot, and they were passing out, no control, they just out. And then when they come back, it's the same thing. And so, you know, for that brief moment or for however long, they lose consciousness. And when you lose consciousness, you don't know what's going on with your body. You don't know who's doing what with your body. So I believe to a degree, and this is just my personal belief, when a person passes out, that's almost like dying. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Because you have no control of it. Everything just stops. You have no recollection of you passing out. All you know is what happened. What happened? What happened? What took place? What was going on? You don't know what happened. All you know is that there's a place between here and there, and in the middle of there, you have no recollection of what took place. Blackout. Exactly. Blackout. To black out means consciousness is no longer there. And so now here it is, this is what took place. And so she I believe passed out, she blacked out. And when she got up, she went on a quest, and she ran and she ran, and she went to every place. She went to Shem and Eber, I believe that was his name. And she went and she looked and she asked, is he here? Is Abraham and my son here? Because remember now, it took her 25 years to bring forth this child. She kept him in her tent. He was about maybe 60, maybe older. He was in her tent all night long. All she did was wept and kissed him and instructed him. And her last words to him. Now you have to understand, the enemy heard her words. She said, because I may not see you again after this day. Sometimes you have to be careful what comes out of your mouth. Are you hearing me? And the enemy met her on the road, and he told her, your son is dead. Did Abraham tell you what he was taking him? Did Abraham tell you that he was taking him to sacrifice him? Now, mind you, once again, communication is important, and it is key to anything. I don't care what it is. Right. One of the things you should never do is keep secrets. Never keep secrets. Because when you keep secrets, what ends up happening, and I'm not talking about when things that are applied to you in confidentiality. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about a leader and a member. That's not a secret. That's personal, private stuff that goes to the Abba. But I'm talking about secrets. I'm talking about stuff that needs to be divulged. Right. That's right. You hear me? Yes. Well, I'm not telling nobody, but I'm going to go around the corner, up the road, down the way. And somebody crack you across the head and throw you in the bushes up the road, down the way, and don't nobody know you go. Right. Because you left without sharing where you were going. Because you don't ever know what's up the road. Once again, it's important. Or somebody threatens you. I can't get them involved. I'm going to be like a train horn. Oh, no, you ain't going to threaten me because I'm going to let everybody know you threaten me. Hello. Because these are things that you don't keep. Are you hearing me? Why? Because this can be a place in your life or you being set up to be hurt or even killed. That's right. You hear any horror stories. Well, they went. Now, I'm not saying you can't go to the store by yourself. Please understand that. But I am saying when you leave and you don't tell anybody where you're going. And so it's important that we understand, never leave without sharing with somebody where you're going. Right. Are you hearing me? Yes. Where you go. It's important that we understand that. Why? Because if nobody knows where you are and you come up missing, where are they going to look for you at? Right. Well, we don't know. She left. Julianne left at yesterday at 5, but she didn't tell us where she was going. Now you see what? The posters up in Walmart and on the signs, missing. Are you hearing me? Yes. And if you're going to go somewhere, tell people where you're going and don't lie. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to my friend's house and then you ain't there. Now nobody knows where you are. Are you understanding? Yes. And men included, because let me tell you something. You got people that'll jump out on you. Right. You got people that, I was listening to this testimony of this lady, and she was talking, and she was a police officer, and her and her 2 daughters were at the turnpike of New Jersey, getting ready to go, I believe, to New Jersey. And so she said that they went to the rest stop. And anytime you go to a rest stop, it is always important that you be where a lot of people are. You know, people like, I don't like all that. I don't want nobody next to my car. You better get in that parking space and be visible. You be around on the backside and don't nobody know you're there, and you be missing 2 years, and they know, and people still don't know where you're at, because people will not really get involved these days. They'll see a car sitting somewhere for months and won't open their mouths.
Right.
That, well, it ain't my business. Once again, it's about communication. And she was saying that as she went to the restroom, there was this guy, and he was sitting on the bench, and he had his head down, and he was sitting, and he had on like a military coat, and she said he was smoking, and he never looked up, but he just kind of threw his hand up. And she said, because she's a policeman, she said it seemed a little suspicious. So when she came back out, evidently they didn't know her 2 daughters was in the car. When she came back out, all she knows is that he threw up his hand with the power, with a fist like this. And she said, out of nowhere come this green van, black on the inside, these 3 big guys out, and they're smoking, and it's a lady driving the truck, driving the van. And she says, they come to her and tell me, we got a baby in the car, and we need some money, some gas, if you could help us out. And say the whole time they were casing her car, they walked around to the passenger side, and her daughter was in there. She said that thing, she held it for about 2 weeks, didn't say anything. I would have called the police right then and there. Ain't no way in the world I would have waited. Why? Because you may have gotten away, but the next person not have gotten away. And saying that they went around and said that when they saw it was her 2 daughters, they looked and possibly were discouraged by that, and it would be harder to get 3 people than 1. First of all, you don't ever let anybody walk up on you. You don't know if they have a gun. You don't know if they have a taser. You don't know what they have. And especially when they coming up like this, you're like, no, partner, you better back up. Back up, because I don't know who you are, and I don't know your intention. Oh, I don't mean you no harm. No, back up, because see, number 1, I don't trust your stance.
Right.
Exactly.
You walk into me like this, I don't know what you have in your pocket. You could have some acid or something in your pocket. You could have a gun. You could have a knife. That's right. And you can rush me and then try to take me. No, it's important that you understand. And one thing I've learned is always body language. Watch body language. Right. You sitting up there and people take that stance like, they got their hand in their pocket. Okay, why are you setting up? What you setting up for? Yeah. What you setting up for? You're setting up for a hurting, because if you come this way, I'm going to beat the crap out you. Hello. No. These are things that are important for us to remember, whether you are male or female, because you got guys that get abducted too. And it ain't because they're weak, because they can't handle their own, but you got to understand, you got 4 or 5 folk on you rushing you. What you going to do? Unless you got that martial arts under your belt, you watching like, no, y'all setting up to try to get me. And I ain't going to wait for you to get me. I'm just going to start fighting, start kicking and beating and biting and carrying on. No, you ain't going to get me. Are you hearing me? It's important that we understand, once again, communication. And because of the lack of communication, the enemy was able to get in and cause her to lose her way in her emotions. Emotions don't have brains, y'all.
That's right.
We are the ones that govern our emotions. And if you are not careful, you will be on a tangent in your emotions if you don't know how to keep them on wrap. How do we do that? By meditating upon the Torah. Because when you meditate upon it, and when you say, no, I'm not going to let this book of the Torah depart out of my mouth, you're not just saying this book. You have verses. You have chapters. Now, you may not be able to remember all the churches, the chapter, but you are able to remember the verses. Remember those. Why? Because that builds you up. That builds your belief. That builds your strength up. And anything that comes in or tries to come in and penetrate that's foreign, you'll be able to pick it up. Right. Why? Because you've been studying, you've been meditating upon truth. Right. Like I said, I watch how people watch. I watch how people watch us in the store. How people give you that quick glance, look at, like, okay, wait, what's going on with that look? What you looking at me for? You think you're going to bum rush me? What's going on with you? You know, take a quick look at you. Or they sizing you up. I watch everything. I may not look like I'm watching everything, but trust me, I'm looking and watching everything, especially when we are as a group, and even when I'm by myself, and especially when you're a group. Mm-hmm. See, because that's when people really get to a point when they get to doing stuff. No, I don't hardly go by myself. I got to have my team with me, because when I get in that car, boy, they get in that car and be like, oh my, anyway. Woo! I told her I'll get before. But let me tell you something. You have to be watchful,
Right.
and you have to watch people. You have to watch them. You have to watch mannerisms. You have to watch body language, because that will tell what a person is thinking about trying to do.
Right.
It does. It lets you know, especially when people start taking a certain stance and when people start doing certain things, that lets you know they're trying to get you sometime comfortable to where they can bum rush you. Or they're looking to see what your reaction is going to be. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Once again, one of the things, and this is what I want to tell you, anytime you see somebody coming trying to get you, never ever stand flat-footed and never ever stand with your feet just all lax. You better put a stand that if they come at you, you're able to withstand if they bum rush you.
That's right.
Are you hearing me?
Yeah.
I learned that a long time ago. And that way, if they come one way, you move out the way and then back them in the back of the head. And you know if they're too big and you can't deal with them, once you do what you got to do, get out of them.
Right.
It's better to run than to take a bad stand. And that's not being a punk, that's not being weak, that's using wisdom. Because there's some things that you cannot actually do on your own. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Once again, and this is still talking about communication.
Mm-hmm.
And because he did not communicate with her in the proper manner, she ended up getting information. Let me tell you what fear is. Fear is false evidence appearing real.
Right. That's right.
She received words from Shaitan. And because she thought that this was one of the old men that were with them, and evidently this was something that was they were used to, grabbing people and going and doing things. You got to be in a circle, know your circle. Know who's going to be there. I know everybody just about that Antoine works with, or Apostle Brown works with. When I mean that, I know their names.
Right.
I know their characters, and I know what I believe they will do and what they won't do. I know them. Why? Because I keep an eye on them. Because I don't trust everybody.
Right. That's right.
And that's the truth. So when it comes down to something, anything ever happen, I know just who to go to. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Why? Because we communicate. It doesn't matter that he's a big man. It doesn't matter that he works certain places. What matters is communication. Because if somebody comes with some stupidness, well, he did this, you a lie, the truth ain't in you.
Right.
Because that's not what he does. Are you understand?
Yes.
That's why it's important that we have people in our lives that will get to know us and know certain things that we will do and certain things we won't do. Now, you got to understand, because of the lack of communication, now, this old man who Shaitan basically revealed himself as, she thought this was somebody that was in their entourage, somebody that was in their circle, and ended up getting tricked. And the thing of it is, that could have all been alleviated or even stopped if they would have talked and she would have known who was with them. Now, mind you, in that same chapter, you see where he appeared to Isaac as an old man. He appeared to Abraham as an old man. And he tried to give them that same lie, and they refuted it, and he rebuked them each time. But you have to understand, she left out of it. So she didn't know if somebody appeared to you with craziness or send word back. The enemy has appeared to me, and if he's appeared to us, he's possibly going to appear to you. Be on your guard. Watch for this. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
So when we in the store, especially with my beautiful daughters, and they walk in and they say, this woman's doing this, I'm like, good, I'm glad you said something. Why? Because we can keep an eye on that food. I'm serious. And even women. You got to keep your eye on everybody. Okay, good. You said that. I ain't going to tell nobody, because you better spill the beans. Because there are certain places in that store that people can get you and won't nobody even see. And then you got to understand, once again, people do not like getting involved. They don't like getting involved unless they the ones doing the dirt. They ain't going to get involved. So once again, communication is key. It is always key. And I believe it could have been prevented if they would have communicated. And he would not have to come home, neither would Isaac have to have come home and find that his mama was dead. Or his wife. You gotta understand, Abraham loved his wife. And so did Isaac love his mama. Because when he got there, all he could do is do what she was doing to him, is hug her and kiss her and hug her and kiss her. it's important that we remember these things. Very important. You want to read something, read the writings.
Right.
You'll find that our lives are full of color. You see drama, you will see heartache and pain, but you also see joy and you see happiness. But once again, communicate. Communicate. And it ain't because you're scared, it's just because you want to know, especially when you're dealing with different things. That's one of the things I always try to convey to my oldest sons. I'm not treating you like a baby, I'm treating you like I'm concerned.
That's right.
Because when you get out there, you got people that they like the Ibram organs. They do. You have to understand, we have some of the strongest organs. We have the strongest bodies out there. Because you have to understand, melanin is important. And because we are melanated people, we eat the sun. We're able to regenerate and we're able to do. Even racist people have our organs in their bodies. Are you hearing me? Because there are no better organs out there than ours. And so when you go out, just let somebody know where you're going. Let somebody always have something. See, because if your dealings are right, you ain't got no problem. You ain't got no problem telling people where you're going. I'm going to the store. I'm going to be right there at the store. Are you hearing me? And if I make a detour, then I'll tell you. Now, if it's somewhere I have to go personal, I'm going here personal. This ain't your business, but I'm going here. So at least you know where I will be. Are you understanding?
Yes.
It's important, once again. And if anybody does pop up and be crazy, then you know what to do. And anybody say anything contrary to that, then you know what to do. Once again, communication is key. It's important. And it is so.
It is.
All right, we're going to take up at chapter 24. Isaac learns the way. And so once again, our theme is life of Sarah. K.I. Sarah, life of Sarah. Once again, looking at her life, and it becomes so painful at times looking at this because once again, her life was, I believe, taken from her. And it is so. All right, let us read 6 verses. Let's do 6 verses, chapter 24. Let's do 6 verses. And once again, I'm going to be reading from the book of Yasher as well as the Abrahamic covenant writings. So I'll be kind of giving 2 perspectives as we're reading it. All right, read for me. Chapter 24, verses 1 through 5.
Scriptures. Now Abraham was old, well advanced in age, and Jehu had beruth Abraham in all things. So Abraham said to the elder servant of his bed, who ruled over all that he had, "Please put your hand under my thigh, and swear by Yahuwah the power of Shemayim, and the power of the earth, that you will not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites, among whom I dwell. But you shall go to my land and to my mishpachah, and take a wife for my son Yasa." And the servant said to him, "Perhaps the woman will not be willing to follow me to this country. Must I take your son back to the land from which you came?" And it is so.
And it is so. Now, chapter 24, the book of Yesher, like I said, I'm going to be backwards and forth. And this is kind of giving a overview. Abraham purchases a burial place. Isaac sent to the house of Shem and Eber to learn the way of Yahuwah. Eliezer is sent to get a wife for Isaac. Goes to the house of Bethuel and brings Rebekah. Now, let's look at a few things here. Once again, this is important that we understand. Look at what he told him what he made him promise. He said, "Look, don't you go get my son a wife from them people." Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Now, he was old and well advanced in age, and Yahuwah had beruth Abraham in all things. So Abraham said to the elder servant of his bed, who ruled over all that he had, "Please put your hand under my thigh." Now, this is Eliezer. This is the one who went with him to Mount Moriah. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
Because he ruled. Once again, what disqualified Ishmael was that he was not part of the covenant, neither was he part of the house. You start thinking, well, how was Eliezer a part of the covenant? He was a part of the house.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the house. Now, once again, that's Eliezer. Now let's look at the what is taking place here. He says, so Abraham said to the elder servant of the bed, who ruled over all that he had, please put your hand under my thigh. Now, this is important that we understand this, especially for young men and elderly men. The hands were put on the reproductive organs as a custom in ancient times to say, if you do not do what you say, may your descendants perish. There's nothing funny. This was nothing. It had nothing to do with being a homo. This had everything to do with if you do the wrong thing, your descendants are going to be cursed.
Right.
You had to be willing to do that to let another man put his hands on your organs. Are you understanding?
Yes.
But they took vows and they took what they put in the hands of the people seriously. You're not going to go and do this. Because if you do, you have to understand the consequences and the ramifications that will follow if you mess up. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Now, it's also the area of circumcision. So this shows respect to the covenant. The testicular area is the area of man's seed. So this was considered important. Some people in India and Ethiopia still take oaths like this. That's why most time when you hear something going on and you hear somebody getting snipped, you don't know why. It ain't always because they have basically raped or done something to somebody in that respect, but they possibly could have reneged or revoked on the vow that they made. Exactly, an oath. So it's important. Why? Because you have to understand, he was saying, look, I don't want my son to get caught up with anybody that is not going to be suitable and that's not going to follow in covenant. And swear by Yahuwah the power of Shemayim. And remember now, and swear by Yahuwah the power of Shemayim. He's not swearing by anybody else. And he has a right to make swear by the name of Yahuwah so that this thing will be done right. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
And he says unto him, that you will not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites among whom I dwell. He did not want his son because he understood these people are not what? Covenant minded. They can't. It's the same thing you going out there in the world. And I know a lot of people ain't gonna like this, but it's the truth. People get out there and the first thing they do is go out there and try to get somebody that is not walking in covenant. They go to the world and they go through all these things, and Christianity was notorious for it. Right. Go get you a wife out there in the world, and even women went and got husbands. And then when it all started falling apart, then they want counseling. Right. Well, I'm ready to get out of this. Really? You should have got in it. You should have thought about that before you said, I do. But he said, promise me. Why? Because you have to understand these people were idolatrous and would turn away Isaac's heart. Now, it's amazing how, when we place that upon certain things, when you start looking at the character and the lifestyle of people that are idolatrous, it's bad. But most of the time, not all the time, they have just that much power to where they can turn a heart of a believer away from you. That's why I said, don't mingle with them people, don't dwell with them people, don't do that. He said, don't go after them. It's the same thing you walking in truth. Don't be going after anybody. That's right. Make sure this person is in truth. Make sure this is a young lady that's operating in truth. Are you understanding me? And just because they have a rap on their head don't mean they operate in truth.
That's right.
It don't mean that. I heard one young lady say it's just a dummy and a rap. That thing was so funny to me when she said that. She said just a dummy and a rap. And I don't mean that to be negative, but at the same time, you got to develop your life. You want to be more than eye candy. You want to be more than somebody that's going to be standing up there saying, well, I can't do till you tell me to move. And you get the crap beat out of you because they have no mind and no will of their own. Well, I can't get involved in that. And you getting the cornbread stuff beat out of you. And they're standing there because they don't know anything else to do. You better find somebody that you can love and that will love you. And through hard times, good times, bad times, ugly times, indifferent times, they'll still be right there to defend you, to uphold you, to lift you up. And if it comes to that, we'll be right there to brawl right beside you. Right. And I be standing up there, well, I can't do that because, a woman ain't supposed to do this. This woman will. I will beat the cornbread and greens out you. And you ain't even ate that. But I'll beat it out of you. Why? Because you have to understand, it is about a mutual balance.
That's right.
You got 5-on-1, and I'm standing there. Well, I can't do that because, I ain't supposed to do this. If you engage, you better be prepared to be engaged from my end. You better be ready. I'm not playing. Why? Because you got to understand something. You want somebody that prays. You want somebody, yes, that can cook, but you also want somebody that knows how to pray and that knows how to fight whenever it has to come down to that.
That's right.
You don't want somebody that can't do that, that depends on you, everything.
That's right.
Are you hearing me?
Yes.
You got to have somebody that's, look, I'm going to fight. We're going to fight together. I just one guy I told my wife, no, you gonna get in the closet. I looked at him, I said, I'm not your wife. That's your wife. You put her in the closet with the dogs. I'm not going to no closet with dogs. I ain't gonna be all up under my husband where I'm gonna be a hindrance to him. Because you gotta understand something. I was handling up on my own before I got married, before I gave him the truth. So I'm not going to allow that part to die. Are you hearing me?
Right.
I don't start anything, but I'm capable of finishing it. That's the mentality. And I don't have to walk around saying, I'll beat you, I'll beat you.
Right.
No, you don't do that. But once again, it is important that you understand that you have the right mate beside you.
That's right.
Everybody is not right for everybody.
That's right.
Hear me? And some of these, I love them, and I wouldn't talk about any of them. It's just balance. You got some sisters that won't do it. You got some brothers that won't do it. They have the mentality of those during the Hasmonean dynasty, during the time of the Maccabees. We ain't going to fight because it's Sabbath and everybody died. You let your children die. You let your wife die. Your wife let the children die. She let you die. We ain't going to fight because it's Sabbath. They got slaughtered. And Mattathias said, we won't do it. We're not going to do that. And one Mattathias, it was his son, Judah. We ain't going to let nobody die. No, we're going to defend, because if we all die, who's going to carry on and pass on what we know?
That's right.
Because we all dead. No. No, because if you come in mine, we going to roll. Ain't none of that. Are you understanding me?
Right.
Once again, you have to be able to know, because if not, you'll be connected with the wrong person and they'll leave you. And they'll have you out there defending yourself or fighting for on your own. It's important, once again, do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers.
Right.
Because you have to understand, people understand, when I read and when I understand, I know that I have a part. And if I'm going to be a part of you, then I've got to know what I need to do to support you and compliment you. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
It's about that. You cannot, once again, you get with the wrong people, and they sitting up there, I can't do that. And you got these brothers out there that be trying to bully these women. Well, she ain't supposed to do nothing. You create her just what you want her to be, a potato. Couch potatoes don't never sit on the couch and watch TV. You're creating her to be something, a docile person, that when something happens, they can't do nothing. Really, because you didn't tell them you can't do because I'm the man and I'm supposed to do. Well, you're getting your head stomped in. Well, you get exactly what you get your hand broke, while you get your foot cut off. You done made her. We can't do this, and you ain't supposed to be doing this, and you ain't supposed to be doing that. And then when push comes to shove, and she can't do anything because you basically broke her down, well, she can't do nothing. Now y'all both gonna be in there expired because you told her she do anything.
Right.
Instead of telling her, yes, you're gonna respect me. Once again, you have to understand, respect is earned.
Right. That's right.
It's earned, and when you earn it, you're supposed to give it. But you can't sit up there and be beating up folk and telling them what they can't do and how they, you can't do this and you can't do that. You can't look at me in my face and you can't say this and you can't do that. And then the moment a man step up in their life and they're like, I can't do that. And he about ready to beat her half to death. That's foolishness.
That's right.
It is, but that's the way they're being said. He said, but do not go and get him away from them people. She had to match him. Are you hearing me? People believe that when Chava was created, brought forth out of the side of Adam, that she was there to be a helpmeet. She was not there to be a helpmeet, she was there to be his equal.
That's right.
How is it that the animals could have an equal, but he had to get a helpmeet?
Right.
on now. Let's really look at this. If there were giraffes, then a male giraffe had a female giraffe. She wasn't his helpmate. She was what? His partner.
That's right.
They had the same ability. They had the same things.
Right.
Are you understanding?
Yes.
He had the instructions. But when it get down to it, weaker does not mean simple.
Right.
It meant that she was softer, the more, I won't say not timid, but the softer side. It had nothing to do with her being weak. Once again, this is the mindset, this is stuff they play. And then and then we're not supposed to be manly.
That's right.
You don't want no manly woman that's being more man than you. You be like, wait a minute, let's go, let's check, let's see, let's make sure it's right. I saw a post, y'all, about having me passing out, talking about some of these brothers, when they get married, their wives ain't gonna be having no children because they ain't gonna be women, they gonna be men. Somebody said, well, you know what? I ain't gonna say everything they said. Them they the ones that fools. Because ain't no man gonna pull that off on me, thinking making me believe he a woman. You had to sit up on that one. No. Once again, no. But you don't want to be manly. You don't want a woman that's manly. You want a woman that's able to say, okay, when it's 7 said and done, she's gonna listen. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Not like she's a puppy, not like she's some dog, but because she is your mate. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Your soulmate. The one that you're going to love for the rest of your life. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Not somebody that's just going to be there for a play toy, but that you're going to love and that's going to be able to be submissive. And guess what? That works both ways.
That's right. That's right.
Because both have to be submissive. Because if you're not both submissive, what ends up happening, you do this.
Mm-hmm.
It's a continual budding. It's a continual budding. And you don't want budding. You want this. You want to be unified. Once again, because then, no matter what happens, you'll be right there for each other. You can have hard times. You can have some heated fellowships. You can have some days that you're at the door, but then you consider, nah, can't let this go. Are you hearing me? I heard somebody say, it's hard to train people because you know the crazy person you with, you know they craziness, but then you try to get with somebody and they crazy and you crazy too? Nah. Hard to train people nowadays. This sounds crazy. He said, but the craziness, he said, you don't want nobody else's craziness. But once again, it's important that we understand. He said, do not. Why? Because you're looking for covenant-minded people. Covenant-minded. That doesn't mean that you just wear it. That means it's here. Mm-hmm. And no matter what situation they find themselves in, they do not lose that. And they're coming to love, support, and not just help, but also to strike out and do things. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Because you want somebody that has a mind and has a heart for Yahuwah. Are you hearing me? Anybody see him coming to her? Remember he said, Eddie Murphy was like, I don't want this woman. She said, tell me, she said, I'll do whatever you want me to do. He said, she has no mind. He said, bark. She barked and she stood and bounced around on one foot. Now, mind you, all this power this young lady has, she's a princess. And all she could do was walk up behind him and do that. His mother wasn't even like that. James Earl Jones played his papa in it, but his Ema, she was powerful. Why would you want your son to marry somebody that's not, that have that same strength and stamina? He said, I don't want this woman. But at the same time, he shouldn't come to America and got somebody that was cooking in a restaurant either. Because we got to have something to bring, both of us have to have something to bring to the table. Now, please don't take this the wrong way. Because then sisters be walking around saying, because if he ain't got a job, if you ain't got a job, y'all both just ain't got no jobs. Right here. Because someone did that, well, I can't marry nobody without a job. You don't have one. Right here. Once again, you will meet each other where you are. Why? Because if you don't, what ends up happening sometimes is later on in the long run, that starts being thrown up in your face. Mm-hmm. Well, you ain't got this. Remember when you got with me, this, that, and the other. No, let's do this and let's build together.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So therefore, it is ours. Are you understanding?
Yes.
It's ours, not yours and mine. It's ours, and no matter what, that's what it needs to be, and it should always be. Are you understanding?
Yes.
He had to get somebody he could trust. So he said, "Don't go. Please don't get her from there, please." because he knew the ability they had to change the hearts of those that are walking in truth. Now, once again, it's important that we understand, and he made him promise it, and he did. Now, let's look at verse 4. But you shall go to my land and to my Mishpachah, and take a wife for my son Isaac. And the servant said to him, perhaps the woman in my stomach will not be willing to follow me to this country. Must I take your son back to the land from which you came? Now, once again, he wanted to take him with him. That was not feasible, neither was acceptable.
Right.
Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Why? Because it would have been detrimental and dangerous. Because you have to understand, Isaac was of what? Notoriety.
That's right.
He was considered a prince. So he could not go and do that. So he said, no, I got to trust you to go and do this and make this happen. And he said, but Abraham said to him, beware that you do not take my son back there. No, don't take him back there, because then you have to understand too. It's one of the things about family at times, and you'll see that family can be really notorious when you start trying to move and do things. Are you hearing me? Especially with people that are of notoriety, and you try to grab, do certain things.
Right.
That's a no-no. And so he told me, he said, no, do not do that. So once again, it was important that he had somebody that would follow the instructions and not turn around and try to change and manipulate what he told him to do. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Once again, it's always important to have people in your life that you can trust with anything.
That's right.
It is. I won't say that it's hard, but I'll say it's challenging. It's challenging. You got to be able to trust people that they ain't gonna nut up on you and go and do something stupid. It's the truth. It is. You got to be able to trust people that when they get you in them vulnerable moments, that they don't take advantage of you vulnerable.
Right.
Are you hearing me? They don't run over you. They don't do all this crazy stuff. You can trust them type of people. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Because you want people that when you cry or when you show you, they ain't sitting up there. And then next thing you know, they're using that against you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, remember you was crying like this. Remember, this is what's going on. You got to have people that when you say something or share something with them, that they don't nut up on you. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
And they don't come back and try to use that against you. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
Now, if it's something that's detrimental, then yeah, they need to blow the horn. Especially if somebody talking about killing themselves or talking about doing something that's going to hurt them or hurt the people they're around. It's important that we understand that. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
All right. Let's read 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, please.
Verse 7. Yahuwah, power of the Shemayim, who took me from my Abba's house and from the land of my Mishpachah, and who spoke to me and swore to me, saying, to your descendants I give this land. He will send his angel before you, and you shall take a wife for my son from there. And if the woman is not willing to follow you, then you will be released from this oath. Only do not take my son back there. So the servant put his hand under the thigh of Abraham his master, and swore to him concerning this matter. Then the servant took 10 of his master's camels and departed, for all his master's goods were in his hand. And he arose and went to Mesopotamia, to the city of Nahor. And he made his camels kneel outside the city by a well of Ma'im, at evening time, the time when women go out to draw Ma'im. And it is so.
And it is so. Now, once again, he told him, don't take my son back there. Now, you have to understand, camels let you know, because camels were like the sports car of our day. They were the more prestigious animals to use.
Luxury.
Huh?
It's a sports luxury like the BMW.
Right, like a Beamer, a Mercedes, a Cadillac. That's what those were. And camels meant that you had wealth. And so this is what they did. So once again, when he saw this, he knew basically, and not only that, but he saw the humility of those they were looking for. Once again, you want somebody that will be on your side, that will work too. They may not necessarily be able to go and get a job, but they still work. Let me tell you something, being a wife, a mother, a teacher, a friend, all those things, that takes a lot. And you want somebody that's going to be willing to work, even if they don't go on the job. Because let me tell you something, cleaning the house, making sure things are right, making sure the children ain't crazy, making sure, you keep all stuff on the tack, make sure the home, no matter where you are, that's the castle you come back home to, that you're able to rest in shalom. That's a lot. That's work. May not bring a lot of money to the table, but you bring your gifts and your talents, and whatever he does, Baruch you with, you put it to the table. You're not selfish. You don't go and buy what you want and then forget about everything else. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
That's not. You can't do that. And once again, you still got a lot of our sisters that are walking in truth, but they still got that selfish streak in them. I'm the type of person, I can't go out there and get it, but I can do it myself. I can do it myself. I can do my nails myself. I can do my hair. But those are things that are just things that we do because we like to. But once it becomes a necessity, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Because now that becomes a bill. A bill, old bill. You know that thing when they talk about bill. What was it? Schoolhouse Rock talking about the bill. It becomes a bill. It becomes passed in their legislation, and they do it, and that's what is their law. I gotta have this, I gotta have that. No, only thing you have to have is Torah. Are you understanding? And shalom. So once again, it's important that we understand that. Now, as we looked over here in the writings, we see everything that took place. Now you have to understand, after he bought the burial, and Abraham buried Sarah with pomp as observed at the interment of kings, and she was buried in a very fine and beautiful garment. He buried her like a queen. So he just didn't throw her in a cave. And at her bier was Shem, his sons Eber and Abimelech, together with Nar, Ashkol, and Mamre. And all the grandees of the land followed her. Bier. And the days of Sarah were 127 years, and she died. And Abraham made a great and heavy mourning, and performed the mourning for 7 days. And all the inhabitants of the land comforted Abraham and Isaac his son on account of Sarah. Now you have to understand that another reason why it was time for him to get a wife, because she was to come and to help him not so much forget his Ema, but to help him during this time of mourning. You got to understand also, you got to be in that place to be able to help. You can't come in and, well, dang, this is, a bit. Because he loved his Ema. Are you hearing me? So there had to be somebody that could be in her, not so much in her shoes, don't get me wrong, but somebody that could be there, not take her place, but be right there to match her place. And not try to take her place,
right,
but be able to be there to love and to support. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
And be that ear, because I'm sure that many times he talked about it and not it does. But she was do that because she taught him. She loved him so much. And anytime you understand that type of love as a mother, you understand. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Well, it's a lot of things. But anyway, it's important to understand that. You want somebody in your corner that's going to love you. Are you hearing me? That's going to support you, and that's not going to try to take advantage of you. That's one of the things. And when the days of mourning passed, but Abraham sent away his son Isaac, and he went to the house of Shem and Eber to learn the ways of Yahuwah and his instructions. And Abraham remained 3 years. Now he was there 3 years, and while he was there for 3 years, Isaac was learning at the house of Shem and Eber to learn the ways of Yahuwah. Are you hearing me? So after they mourned as a family, then he went away to learn Torah. Abraham knew Torah. And so he did the ritual for mourning. So he stayed there and he mourned because his mourning was going to be different. You're talking about a son's mourning and a husband's mourning, which is totally different. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Okay. At that time, Abraham rose up with all his servants, and they went and returned homeward to Beersheba. And Abraham and all his servants remained in Beersheba. And at the revolution of the year, Abimelech, king of the Philistines, died in that year. He was 193 years old at his death. And Abraham went with his people to the land of the Philistines, and they comforted the whole household and all his servants, and he returned and went home. Now, once again, it's important, no matter how much love, no matter how much compassion they try to show you, you still don't intermingle and you still don't tie with them. You hear me? Well, they was right there with me all the time. They was right there because my own people wasn't with me. That don't mean that gives you a license to marry them.
That's right.
Dogs be with you because they committed companions too. But you don't marry them.
Right.
Well, yeah. Well, that's in Texas. They can marry anything. That's just as nasty and gross. Anyway, and it was after the death of Abimelech, the people of Gerar took Abimelech, his son, and he was only 12 years old, and they made him lying in the place of his father. And they called his name Abimelech, after the name of his father. For thus was it their custom to do it Gerar, and Abimelech reigned instead of Abimelech his father, and he sat upon his throne 12 years old. Boy. Are you? Now, some of the people that died. Now, and Lot the son of Haran also died in those days, in the 39th year of the life of Isaac. And all the days that Lot lived were 147, and he died. And there are the children of Lot that were born to him by his daughters. The name of the firstborn was Moab, and the name of the second was Ben-Ammi. And the two sons of Lot went and took themselves wives from the land of Canaan, and they bare children to them. And the children of Moab were Ed, Maon, Tarsus, and Canbil. 4 sons. These are the fathers of the children of Moab unto this day. And all the families of the children of Lot went to dwell wherever they should light upon, for they were fruitful and increased abundantly. They were like children like crazy, boy. And they went and built themselves cities in the land where they dwelt, and they called these of the cities which they built after their own names. And Nahor the son of Terah, brother to Abraham, died in those days, in the 40th year of the life of Isaac, and all the days of Nahor were 172 years, and he died and was buried in Haran. Now, once again, you have to understand all these things are coming at Abraham, and he's at a point where he's grieving, but he still takes his son, and he basically sends him to, I don't want to say school, but sends him now to learn the ways of Yahuwah. Now, once again, you got to remember, from the early stages of his life all the way up to where he's maybe 16 or 17, he's in the tent with his Ima. She loves him to life. And I don't believe he was spoiled. You know how some children with their, some Imas with their sons, it becomes abnormal. I don't believe that at all, because I believe she was teaching him things about how to love himself, how to love his wife. Not that Abraham could do it, but this was her time to teach her son. There are some times that when, if you're not taught and you don't and you're not walking in truth, there's some crazy, wicked things that can be on the wind when it comes to stuff like that. Right. Especially when you have a single Ima. We know Sarah was not single. But when you have single Imas out there trying to raise sons and they don't have Torah in their lives, you know, there was a movie, Something Wicked Came This Way. There's some stuff that can come that way that's not kosher.
Right.
Because you have to understand your input, your shaping and molding of your son is going to determine what type of man he becomes. And that begins with the Ima, not with the papa. Right. Are you understanding?
Yes.
And if there is not a balance, and if you don't know how to imprint and then move back and let that develop, overshadowing them. And I ain't talking about being a Ima that is protected. I'm talking about one where you're doing things that are abnormal around your son. Right. Are you hearing? Yes. You don't wear no nightgowns around your son. That's an automatic no-no. Are you understanding me? Yes. You know, I'm being real. You don't wear those things around your son. You dress appropriately. Why? Because you want him to respect women. Then you don't want his heart to start turning towards you. And he have abnormal affections for you as his Ima. It's tight, but it's right. Why? Because you have to understand, if you're the only Ima or only woman that's around, you got to make sure he stays balanced. Right. That don't mean busting him in the face either. I'm going to make him a man. No, you ain't. You're going to mess him up just like you mess dogs up, beating them thinking you're going to make them vicious. That's not how you make them vicious. They're going to be vicious and they're going to protect you. And a vicious dog always is not the dog you need. You just want a dog that's going to protect and make sure that the house is safe. Right. But once again, you have to understand, she imprinted him in a way that it caused him to be nurtured. We're nurturers too. But there's just something of the way an Ema nurtures her sons and her daughters. And so she was teaching him. But once again, you have to understand she had a life that was steeped in Torah truth. When you don't have Torah, what is your guide to teaching and grooming and cultivating and shaping the life of your son?
Right.
If there is not one, you don't have one. You use the ways of the world, you're subject to turn them out. You're subject to shape them into something that will become horrible. Either they become too feminine or they become over masculine. Because now they think everything they do has got to be about domination. I got to dominate you. Or they become a mama's boy. All my sons are Ema boys, but they are not abnormal. Are you understanding?
Yes.
I respect them, they respect me. I respect their papa. Are you understanding?
Yes.
I respect myself. And when you can do that and live that life and show that, that brings a balance. Do they see us have heated fellowships? Absolutely. Because they don't see conflict and resolution. Now, how will they ever be able to bring resolution to a conflict? Do they see us brawl? No. No, they don't see us do the one-hitter quitter. Me on top. No, I'm just playing. I'm just kidding. No. But they understand. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Conflict resolution. And I'm not talking about the one that we create. I'm talking about the ones that come out of certain situations. Right. Those are the ones that teach you how to resolve conflict.
Right.
The ones that are not staged. The storms that pop up, not because of, the chemtrails, but the ones that naturally come up. So it's important that you understand that. I taught them how to love themselves. I taught them and I continue to teach them how to love themselves. And how to respect themselves and their sisters. Right. And to protect them. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Oh yeah, you know they will, boy. They'll throw down behind them, their sisters. Even their baby brother. Because it ain't got nothing to do with age. It's about protecting their sisters. And then they protect me. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Yes. It's important. Now, once again, she did not shape her son abnormally. There are a lot of women that do that because they don't know how to cultivate. And once again, I'm a stickler. You need Torah in your life. Because when you direct them in that manner, what happens is they learn and they develop that way. Now, real quickly, when we look at the life of Hagar, it was in Hagar as well. Because if you notice, Hagar rebelled against Sarah, and she got proud when she found out she was pregnant. That's why Sarah began to be disgruntled with her. Because when she started seeing, it's paying off. Now, I know I'm pregnant. You ain't. Remember, you want what I got. And she said, oh, no, sister, you have to go. And she left, and guess what Yahuwah told her? He said, go back and submit yourself to your mistress. Because she was out of order. So that lets you know that when her son was born, he had the same mentality. I'm first. Who is that little scrub? And he's supposed to be this, and I'm supposed to respect him. And what kind of man? I don't think so. I'll take him out of here. Mentality. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
So the way she cultivated him is the way he is going to project his life.
That's right.
And it is true. And it is so. Now you got some, like I said, you got some women that did the best. And they did everything they knew how. And once again, this is no disrespect to the single Emas that did the best they could. But once again, you still need Torah. Mm-hmm. Because I don't care how good your son was. I don't care how or what type of goals he has accomplished. If he doesn't have Torah, it's still not worth anything. Because that's what we're supposed to be teaching them. Train up a child in the way that they should go. And when they're older, they go straight from it. That is our commission as parents. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
So once again, we miss the goal and we don't teach them. But she cultivated and she taught him how to do these things. And she taught him how to respect himself, to respect her, and to respect women. And that's the way it's supposed to be done. You cannot do that if you're cussing them out like they or profaning them like they're grown men. Can't do it. And you can't do it if you got them around you, and what I mean by that, and they seeing you half dressed and they trying to figure out, well, if I'm that close, then why are we different? I'm not supposed to be like you. Are you understanding? You have to make sure, especially when they're younger, how to understand we are different. Are you understanding? Yes. We are different. We're not the same, but we're the same. You come from me, but you're not me, and you can never be me.
Right.
Love will make you want to do that. Abnormal love. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Attributes and characteristics, ain't nothing wrong with that. You want the strength of your ego, and you want to, get down, throw down, and knock folk out, that's fine. But the feminine side, that's when you say, no, I want a wife that has the characteristics and the attributes of my iman. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Strong, but yet humble. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Know how to do what has to be done and not step out of line. That's important that we understand that. Once again, it says all this in the writings. But when we don't take the time to see these things and we jump over, guess what? We miss so much. We miss so much. So for the 3 years that he was born, guess what? Isaac was in school, learning even the more. And it is so. Now he gets to the point where he's here at verse 11. And they're looking at the camel, and he's there, and he's looking because he's searching for this right woman. Not perfect, but right. Because let me tell you something. If you go after a perfect woman and she don't see you perfect, you're going to have some troubles. I'm perfect, you ain't. No, you got to be perfect. No, you want to right. Are you understanding?
Yes.
All right, let's read 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16.
And he made his camels kneel down outside the city by a well of Naim at evening time. Time when women go out to draw Naim. Then he said, "O Yahuwah, how will my master Abraham please give me success this way and show unmerited favor to my master Abraham? Behold, I stand here by the well of Naim, and the daughters of the men of the city are coming out to draw Naim. Now let it be that young woman to whom I say, please let down your pitcher that I may drink. And she says, drink. And I will also give your camels a drink. Let her be the one whom you have appointed your servant, Isaac. By this I will know that you have shown kindness to my master." And it happened before he had finished speaking, that behold, Rivkah, who was born to Bethuel, son of Malchi, the wife of Nicole, Abraham's brother, came with her pitcher on her shoulder. Now the young woman was very beautiful to behold, a virgin, no man had known her. And she went down to the well, filled her pitcher, and came up. And
it is so. Now once again, he came with camels. We got to understand that was like his dowry. He had to have something to come. He didn't come with no, a loaf of bread and a bag of groceries. He had to come with some stuff. He had to come with some stuff. Now look what he did. He prayed because he was sincere. He loved his master Abraham. And so he wanted to make sure, because you have to understand, they're still what? In that time of coming out of what? Mourning. So you don't want to put the wrong person in somebody's life. Right. You don't want to be introducing the wrong person to somebody's life and they're in a time of mourning. Because that could devastate a person. He said, no. And then you got to remember, Nahor, which was his brother, had passed as well. So she suffered loss too. Now, once again, but you also want to make sure that a person is not traumatically or emotionally scarred because of a loss. Now, understand, when you lose people, it does hurt. It hurts tremendously. But then you got to pull yourself together and realize, okay, thank you, Alpha, for the memories. That is what helps me to stay focused and helps me to stay in the shalom of Yahuwah. That he gave me the opportunity to have memories. Beautiful memories with my auntie, whom I love. She's like my second imam. She was. We dressed her. We would go places with her, and then she would come and get me, and it would be me and her, and we'd be riding. We'd be all over the place. And when she had, and you have to understand, my auntie was one of those that she was what you call in that day a looker. She was bad. Do you hear me? She was bad. Yes, she was. And she worked very hard. She worked all her life in that respect. She went back. She had dropped out of school when she was younger. I need my cord. And she went back, got her diploma, and she continued. And but when she got older, because she was a smoker from 16 years of age. What is it? That CP?
OCD.
OCD, where she had problems with breathing. And when she got older, her body started basically showing all the hard years. They were so hard. But she was aware, and she believed in doing what she had to do. She believed, it's part of the secret will. She believed in working. She was a worker. She worked at one of the, when we were in California, she worked at Calico, which was one of the places when you lived in California. That was the money. I mean, that was the money. Back in that time, making $12 and $13 an hour was like a millionaire. Really, because you go to the store and buy a bag of chips for 10 cents. You can't do that now. $1.50 in the bag. We used to be like that. You start thinking 10 cents. The other bags, they really didn't make big bags then. Everything was consolidated and small. You didn't buy no big stuff. But she was a worker, and she wasn't a workaholic. She took time for herself. She was the type of person, she would laugh. She was jazzy, and she would laugh, and she would make you laugh, because she'd be, that's just the way she was, and she would always call me her niecey. She said, niecey? And she was just a person that was uncle. Everybody liked her. It's true. Everybody liked her, because that's just the type of person she was. And she was likable. And when I found myself getting to a point where it's like, oh my goodness, I can't believe she's gone, that's when you will remind me that you have memories. And as long as you have those good memories, she's never gone. She's always in your heart. Are you hearing me? Yeah. Now understand, with that being said, no, I do not talk to her, because she's gone. I don't. Well, she's gone. But I do reflect on the memories. Laughing and her taking us to the mall, her taking me and buying me stuff wherever I wanted. Because she was in my life like that. But I have the memories of those. So I keep those memories, and I don't let those memories escape. And that's how you're able to deal with the loss of a loved one, the good memories. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Because she went to bat for me many times. Many times she went to bat for me. And so those are the things I remember and that I will always cherish about her. And the last thing she told me, the last time I talked, she said, I'm really proud of you. That was what makes me continue to laugh and to smile, because I'm like, you know what? At least she acknowledges my accomplishments. May not be much to many, but to her, it was something. And she always said, girl, you got some beautiful children. She was trying to take mine. I'm like, no, you can't take my baby. No, you can't have her. And but when it's all said and done, memories. And so during that time of mourning, he had to get somebody that would fit that place, that would be able to comfort him and not come in and think, well, when is it going to ever end? You have to understand, there's a lot when you're trying to comfort somebody that you have to prepare yourself. And so this is what we see. And so he made him promise. And so he set out a criteria. He talked to first Yahuwah. He said, if she does this, let me get the esteem and show me this, because I want to make sure when I take her back that the master will be proud. Don't want to use master, but that he would be proud, and that this would make him happy. Why? Because you have to understand, he was getting ready to give this young woman to his son. And you don't want to give the wrong person to your son, or release your daughter to the wrong person. Because that's enough. It's already dealing with issues. Now you got to deal with this foolishness too. Oh, no. Oh, no. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Now, before he could even finish speaking, Rebekah, who was born to Bethuel, son of Michael, the wife of Nachor. Now she goes, and this is what takes place. And she shows kindness. Now, mind you, she's going to draw water. But now she had the picture on her shoulder. They had them big old pictures. And verse 16, and now the young woman was very beautiful to behold, a virgin. No man had known her. And she went down to the well, filled her pitcher, and came up. Why? Because she kept herself. Nowadays, when you hear people talking, you think that's a sin. You think that's wrong to be a virgin. You hear about the stories. Young men waiting till they're 34 and 40 and then get with a Negro. I said it, a Negro. And then allow themselves to be spoiled. No, he ain't gonna marry her. Just to say, well, I waited long enough. Baby, if you gotta wait till you 60, wait till you 60. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Because that's something you can never get back.
Right.
You can never get it back. Once you lose it, it's gone, men included. You can never get it back, but you can live a chaste life until you find that one. But she had not known a man. That tells you her life was chaste and kodesh, set apart. You cannot run with people that live that kind of lifestyle and think you will not be affected by it.
That's right.
You can't walk with people that's what they talk about and that's what their goal is. Because you will be affected by that too, and that will become your goal and your purpose. You have to understand set apart means just that, and they're going to call you queer and call you crazy. Guess what? That's fine. Because I know what my life is supposed to be. Once again, because he's getting ready to present her to a man that has the same lifestyle. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Same lifestyle. Where you match, where you're right there with each other. And once again, if it's something you've done in the past, then the thing of it is, don't do it no more. Keep yourself chaste. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Live a chaste life. Keep your mind out of those things. Don't think about that till it's time. I'm a firm believer. Don't awaken something you're not ready to allow to flourish.
Right.
That's right.
Let it stay asleep. Leave it dormant. Because as long as it's sleeping and it's dormant, you ain't got to worry about it knocking on your door bothering you.
That's right.
The moment you wake it up, it's coming to your door. And I'm a firm believer in that. How do I keep it asleep? Meditation. Meditating on the Torah.
That's right.
How shall a man cleanse his ways? You keep the Torah. You meditate, you live by it, you sleep by it, and then you watch your eyes,
That's right.
your nose gates, and your ear gates.
That's right.
It is. It's certain. Do you not know there are certain things that have one of those pheromones in it? There's certain stuff that will do things. That's why you have to be careful. Even candles. Everything in this life you have to be careful of.
Right.
And that's true.
That's right.
Eye gates, eye gates, ear gates, nose gate, and your mouth gate. Don't let it come out of your mouth and get into your ears. When it gets in your eyes. And from your eyes, it seeps up into your nose. Are you hearing me? You have to be on watch. You have to be on guard at all times. Y'all hear me?
Yes.
All right. Let's read 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22.
And the serpent ran to meet her and said, Please let me drink of the wine from your pitcher. So she said, Drink, my master. Then she quickly let her pitcher down to her hand and gave him a drink. And when she had finished giving him a drink, she said, I will draw meal for your camels also, until they have finished drinking. Then she quickly emptied her pitcher into the trough, ran back to the well to draw meal, and drew for all his camels. And the man, wondering at her, remained silent, so as to know whether Yahuwah had made his journey prosperous or not. So it was when the camels had finished drinking that the man took a golden nose ring, weighing half a shekel, and 2 bracelets for her wrist, weighing 10 shekels of gold. And it is so.
And it is so. Now, once again, you probably imagine, you probably already passed out. She's the one. I take her back. This is a heirloom custom adopted by other cultures such as India, Pakistan, and the Arab nations. And if you notice, when you see the women in India, they have nose rings like we have. They don't have one like you hook that thing and you can drag somebody from here to yonder way. But you clip it on. I hear me. Why? Because that shows that you are betrothed or that you're married. I hear me. And then he put gold bracelets on her arm. You gotta understand, that was real gold. That wasn't this plated gold. That was real gold.
Yes.
Once again, to show that he was coming, but he wasn't just coming to take her. All right, let's read 23, 24, 25, 26, 27.
27?
27.
And said, Whose daughter are you? Tell me, please. Is there room in your Abba's bed for us to lodge? So she went to him, I am the daughter of Bethuel, Milcah's son, whom she bore to Nahor. Moreover, she said to him, "We have both straw and enough feed and room to lodge." Then the man bowed down his head and worshipped Yahuwah. And he said, "Baruch be Yahuwah our power, who has not forsaken my master Abraham of his unmerited favor and his truth. As for me, being on the way, Yahuwah led me to the bed of my master's brethren."
Yes. And it is so. All right, let's finish reading. Now, once again, she could accommodate him because they were matching each other. Now, once again, please don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that just because a person doesn't have what you have, that now that disqualifies you from falling in love and being with them. But make sure, even if they don't have the stuff, they still have the quality.
That's right.
They might not have just walked into it yet. They may not have reached that point. But make sure the mentality and the desire is to have that same type of quality of life.
That's right.
Because even if they don't have it, at least you know they want it. You got people that have it and still don't have it. Because the mentality, seriously, the mentality is all. So once again, I'm not saying a person that may not have what you have is not equal or fit for you. I'm saying just make sure the heart and the mind is right. Because when you make sure that's right and they're walking in truth, you can have both y'all can have buckets and you still can make a life.
That's right.
You hear me? You can both have peanuts, have dust in your pocket, and you can still make it right. But the mentality has to match it too. All right, come on. 26, isn't it? No.
28.
Yeah, 28.
5 verses.
6, that's a 6.
Verse 8, and it reads, So the young woman ran and told those of her mother's bed these things. Now Rivkah had a brother whose name was Laban, and Laban ran out to the man by the well. So it came to pass, when he saw the nose ring and the bracelets on his sister's wrist, he went and when he heard the words of his sister Rivkah, saying, Thus the man spoke to me. And he went to the man, and there he stood by at the well. And he said, Come in, O blessed of Yahuwah, why do you stand outside? For I have prepared the bath and a place for the camels. Then came the man to the bath, and he unloaded the camels, and provided straw and feed for the camels, and made him to wash his feet, and the feet of the men who were with him. And it is so.
And it is so. That's something that you don't really see a lot doing, of them doing, is that when you come into a person's house, the hospitality that you show. You want to have water. You want to have food. You know, nowadays we wear tennis shoes or we wear shoes, which is good. You know, because some people don't like people messing with their feet. You know what I'm saying? But they didn't do it. They just gave them the water to do so. But they made them feel comfortable. They gave them food. They gave them water. And if they had anything, they gave it. Now you start thinking, how we do that today? When you come and you see us and, you know, we feed you and we give you gas so you can go back home. That's really what it would be equivalent to. Or you come, or we come to you and you do the same thing. Once again, these are things that they did to show hospitality, and everybody that was with them. That's a custom. Are you understanding?
Yes, sir.
It's a custom because they had a long journey, and so you want to make them feel comfortable because you're about to make a proposition.
That's right.
You're about to make. It's not a business deal. Understand that. I mean, I understand what Dr. Johnson says, and to a degree, I do agree. It will follow the world system.
Right.
We don't follow the world system. We follow the Torah. So it ain't a business agreement. It's a love agreement. Is business involved? Absolutely.
Right.
But see, we don't do things like everybody else do things.
Nope.
Number one, because you ain't going to no divorce court. Nope. You better love one another. You better pray, fast, and starve yourself or whatever. But you better find yourself falling in love again.
That's right.
Because you can't go nowhere. You better learn to get along with each other. And you better learn how to fall in love once again. They may be pretty in the face and thick in the waist, but you better do something to remain there. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
You know, some brothers got an issue when a woman after they had a couple of babies, and you know, they get a little baby fat on them, and sometimes that baby fat turns to adult fat, and it don't leave. Same thing with them, with the husbands. It's just real. You know, right? They get bold. You hear me? Get a little belly. Get them love handles. And you start thinking, man, they ain't the same way. Neither are you. You better love one another. You better get to the gym or do something. Say, you gotta change it. But you ain't going nowhere. Are you hear me? You gotta learn how to stay in love. You gotta learn how to say. You gotta learn how to love one another and not just reside by each other. Are you hearing me? Because let me tell you something. You know, people say because love can't feed you. I beg to differ. You know why? Because love will keep you full.
That's right.
The reason why people leave and wonder is because they're not full.
Right.
When you're not full, you be all over the place looking for somebody to feel you. That's no. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Once again, there are times when you have to stop and say, okay, is it worth staying or be leaving? Because you have to understand, if you leave, you can't marry. You cannot. You cannot remarry. And so it's best you stay and you learn to love the person you with. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
And that's the truth. That you fall in love with them and stay in love with them. And if you feel yourself almost trying to fall out of love, you better remember what made you love them. Because we don't do the way other people do. Once again, you got to learn and you got to make your home a happy home no matter where it is. And you have to be happy and you got to make the person you're with happy. And in doing so, guess what? You can have a happy home even if it's in a box. That's the truth. Even if it's in your car. That is the truth. Why? Because you have to understand happiness is material things. It's a person you're with. You marry them because you love them, not because of what they have.
That's right.
Or what they can accumulate. That's not why you marry. You marry them because of their attributes and their character. That's what makes you love them. And because they do good to you. That's true. You know, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So, you know, everybody may see me as being beautiful. Everybody may not see my husband as being beautiful. But I see him as being livable gorgeous, not drop dead gorgeous. Livable gorgeous. Are you hearing me? It's important. Okay, if he don't look good, then what you think you look like? I know you look like me, but still. Anyway, but once again, you want to love them. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Gray hairs start coming and all that. You still gotta love them. Once again, it's important. And one thing I've learned is always keep your mind in that place and don't be swayed. It's so much stuff, and I go on and on and on. But the internet is one thing you got to make sure you limit yourself on.
Yes.
You do, because the internet is nobody's friend, really. Because they put in everything and anything, and people don't care how they look and what they put up there. Next thing you know, they ain't gonna have no clothes on. They might as well not have them on now, because they be having all that little stringy stuff on. You go on these social medias and you go trying to look up stuff, and you looking up houses and you see naked folk running around. What does that have to do with me looking up a house? Nothing. But once again, to plant the seed. Plant the seed. That's why you got to watch your eye gates, ear gates, nose gate, and your mouth gate. Now hear me.
Yes.
And it is so.
It is.
Now, once again, this is what was given. All right, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37. Yeah.
And food was set before him to eat. But he said, I will not eat until I have told about my errand. And he said, speak on. So he said, I am Abraham's servant. Yahuwah has bruised my master greatly, and he has become great, and he has given him flocks and herds, silver and gold, male and female servants, and camels and donkeys. And Sarah, my master's wife, bore a son to my master when she was old, and to him he has given all that he has. Now my master made me swear, saying, you shall not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites, in whose land I dwell. But you shall go to my Abazbath and to my Mishpachah, and take a wife for my son.
And it is so. Now, you have no mention of Abraham breeding pigs because he ate clean animals. He ate clean. He had pigs. He only ate clean. Now, he went to his people. Why? Because this is an Ibram and biblical custom. We find this custom still prevalent amongst the Muslims in Pakistan who will not marry their sons and daughters outside their family. And if they are abroad, they will send for the sons' wives back in Pakistan. Some Arab tribes do the same. We met this guy named, what's his name? Yuri. And we went in, messing around and we were in the store, and we were laughing and we was talking, just sporting, and he was laughing. He said, he said, I can go get my wife in about a month. We didn't act all dumb because we knew that was the custom. And we was like, wow, so you go get your wife in a month. Why? Because they had chosen his wife. He didn't go out and get anybody. His family chose his wife, and he had to go get her and bring her back to the United States. It wasn't one of them things, I'm going to go find my own wife. I'm going to find the one I want to marry. No, it already was arranged. You know why? Because they're going to keep that money, and they're going to keep that within the family. And if you find them marrying outside, it's because they have been cast out. They have been cast out, and they have been cut off from the family because they want to marry and do whatever. They believe in marrying within their within their family. They don't believe in going outside. And at one time they did a segment on that, saying, is it fair for the family or for the parents to choose the mates because they may not be what they love? The reason that would be is because they're not walking in that structure of that culture. You hear what I'm saying? So it would be for them to say, well, I don't want that person. But if you were raised in that lifestyle, then you understand this is what it is. I hear you. Yes, everybody should have a standard for what they want their children to marry. You see all these crazy European movies, and you see them, and they be like, where did you find him? Why are you bringing him here? Do you love him? And they looking at, no, this is not the criteria. This is not who we want in your life. Why? Because they dared to go out and do something different. Once again, it's important that you screen the people your children dealing with. Screen them. Why? Because I want to make sure ain't no dummy coming up calling himself thinking, he just gonna come and sweep my daughter off. My daughter's off. I said, no. Are you hearing me? There is a criteria. There is a criteria. They are very beautiful. I know they are. They are very beautiful young ladies. And so are my sons. Very handsome. But once again, there is a criteria. And that criteria, and it's not one of those unrealistic criteria. Are you hearing me? It's not unrealistic. We want folk and truth, and we want people that's living the same way. Okay, we didn't touch that anyway. And we want them to love and value life and value and respect women. See, because I don't want none of these undercover brothers that be believing in polygamy. I said it and I'll say it again. These undercover brothers that believe in polygamy, and the first thing they want to do is just add them to the notch on their belt or add them to their harem. No, brother. That ain't it. No. Because one of us is enough. That's true. That's the truth. So once again, it's important that we understand our hearing. Now watch this. When he went, how many wives did he go to get for him?
One.
Just one. Just one. Because that's all he needed to help her. Just one. All right, let's read. Let's read. It's up to 38. Yeah. 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44.
39, 44. Okay. And I said to my master, perhaps the woman will not follow him. But he said to me, Yahuwah, before whom I walk, will send his angel, or his malach, with you, and prosper your way, and you shall take a wife for my son from my mishpachah, and from my Abba's bed.
Now, hold on. Now, Abraham assured him that there's going to be a malach that's going to lead you, and that your way is going to be prosperous. And you're going to take a wife for my son from my mishpachah, and from my Abba's bed. So he was confident. All he had to do was show up and do what he had to do. He already knew. Because why? He had a relationship with Yahuwah.
That's right.
He had a relationship. And that's why when we ask for things, and when it was for the right thing, because sometimes we can ask for stuff and want stuff, and Yahuwah be like, no, you don't need that. But if you're asking for the right thing, then you'll get that. Because we can't ask for stuff because we want it because it's within our grasp and what we can do. Right. But there's sometimes we need to stop and say, well, no, this is what I want because it's not just what I want, but it's what I need. And I believe with all my heart that he'll do it. Okay, let's read.
41. You will be clear from this oath when you arrive among my mishpachah, for they will not give her to you. For if they will not give her to you, then you will be released from my oath. At this day I came to the well and said, O Yahuwah, power of my sovereign Abraham, if you will not prosper the way in which I go, behold, I stand by the well of my king, and it shall come to pass that when it comes out to draw me, and I say to her, please give me a little mayim from your pitcher to drink. And she says to me, drink, and I will draw for your camels also. Let her be the woman whom Yahuwah has appointed for my sovereign son. And it is so.
And it is so. Once again, he followed the request. He followed that what he requested. All right, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50. Let's do 50.
Verse 45. But before I had finished speaking in my heart, there was Rivkah, coming out with her pitcher on her shoulder. And she went down to the well and drew mine. And I said to her, please let me drink. And she made haste and let her pitcher down from her shoulder, and said, drink, and I will give your camels a drink also. So I drank, and she gave the camels a drink also. Then I asked her, and said, whose daughter are you? And she said, the daughter of Bethuel, Nahor's son Milcah bore to him. So I put the nose ring on her nose and the bracelets on her wrist. And I bowed my head and worshipped Yahuwah, and Baruch Yahuwah, power of my master Abraham, who had led me in the way of truth, to take the daughter of my sovereign's brother for his son. Now if you will deal kindly and truly with my sovereign, tell me, and if not, tell me that I may turn to the right hand or to the left. Then Laban and Bethuel answered and said, the thing comes from power. We cannot speak to you either bad or good. And it is so.
And it is so. Now, once again, you have to understand, if you looking at how things are done. Now, for people to say that when you read on further and we start looking at different things, there are some things that were not accustomed. There were some things that were done based upon greed. Because Laban, in the end, we're going to see, now, do we see any customs here where there had to be 2 wives given?
Nope.
Once again, greed. When people are greedy, they'll do stuff just for the sake of greed. Just for the sake of greed. And so he was right there all up in the business and so forth. And they were saying, well, we can't speak bad or good of it. But he was giving them why he was there. He wasn't just there just to be there. He was there because there was a transaction that needed to be taken. Now, mind you, once again, that was her grandpa that had passed, Nahor. Because Bethuel was his... I think it was his brother, but he said his brother died. Then Nahor was his brother. I'm sorry, yeah, Nahor was his brother. And so that was his nephew that he was sending her to go and get a wife from. So once again, you start seeing where the lines are drawn and where stuff starts getting really funny afterwards. All right, come on, let's read. Read one more.
Verse 51. Here is Rivkah before you. Take her and go, and let her be your sovereign son's wife, as Yahuwah has spoken. And it is so.
And it is so. No long, drawn out debating or what do you call it? We're going to talk about it. She was ready. He knew it was from Yahuwah, and that's who he wanted his daughter with. And they went on. Right here, no, we're going to go into a 30-day meeting. We're going to go into 50-day fasting. He knew. No trickery. Just done. All right. Let's read 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57.
And it came to pass, when Abraham's servant heard their words, that he worshipped Yahuwah, bowing himself to the earth. Then the servant brought out jewels of silver, jewels of gold, and clothing, and gave them to Rivkah. He also gave precious things to her brother and to her mother.
Now hold that thought for me. Now once again, he's passing on all these things, but one thing that remains consistent with Abraham's, I'll use the word adjutant, is that every time something worked, what did he do? He gave thanks. He bowed before Yahuwah. That's what we actually supposed to do. Bow before him. And he gave thanks. Then he starts pulling out this stuff. Now look who's right there to receive. He also gave precious things to her brother and to her Ima. People don't forget. When you got a heavy pocket and you got stuff, people don't forget that, especially when they know what lineage you come through. They know. And he right there with his hand out. Greedy, greedy, greedy. Are you hearing me? Greedy. People don't forget what you're able to give. And if you're not careful, what will happen is in the long run, down the line, which we saw here, you will see that thing pop right back up. All right, let's read.
He and the men who were with him ate and drank and stayed all night. Then they arose in the morning, and he said, "Send me away to my master." But her brother and her mother said, "Let the young woman stay with us a few days, at least 10. After that she may go." And he said to them, "Do not hinder me, since Yahuwah has proposed my way. Send me away so that I may go to my master." So they said, "We will call the young woman and ask her personally." And this so.
And it is so. Now, once again, look who's up in here trying to make him stay. If he would have had to stay 10 more days, you know what he would have had to do for those 10 days? He would have had to accommodate them for being there. He'd have had to give. Once again, who do you see up in there again? Laban's narrow head up in there. Yes. Greedy. 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 And look, they said, well, he said, don't hinder me. I got to go. I have to go. I got to go because I'm on a mission. And so now he says, don't hinder me. And since Yahuwah has prospered my way, send me away so that I may go to my master. And so they call for her. And this is what she says. Because look, you start thinking, no, your motive is not right. Because you want him to be able to give and to continually give while you're there. All right, let's read 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63.
Then they called Ribkah and said to her, "Will you go with this man?" And she said, "I will go." So they sent away Ribkah, their sister, and her nurse, and Abraham's servant, and his men. And they brought Ribkah and said to her, "Our sister, may you become the mother of thousands, of 10,000s, and may your descendants possess the gates of those who hate them."
Now look at even what they are confirming. Probably don't realize what they're confirming. Probably don't realize what they are seeking and what they're praying about. Are you hearing me? Yes. Once again, all right.
And Ribkah and her maids arose, and they rode on the camels and followed the man. So the servant took Ribkah and departed. Now Yasek came from the way of Bir-Ahai Road, for he dwelt in the south. And Yasek went out to meditate in the field in the evening, and he lifted his eyes and looked, and there the camels were coming. And it is so.
And it is so. Now, once again, just doing what they had to do to get out of the way, because you have to understand, the more they waited, the longer he had to wait for his bride. And so, once again, we're looking at how everything is transpiring. Once again, no tradition here. You don't see any customs that support, in the very beginning, polygamy.
That's right.
Because if it would have been supported, then Bethuel would have been the one that had said, no, I got to give you 2 daughters. I got to give you more than one. Are you hearing me? Yes. Or a nursemaid. And then look, when she left, she had nursemaids. Nowadays, when you have people, when you're in Christianity, you see you have humble parents. You can't find nobody that's going to stick with you and be right there with you. You're like, come on, I need you if you'll be with me. I ain't no slave. They had nurses. They have people that were with them. They have people that have helped them. And believe it or not, it's going to be that way real, real soon. Because you're going to have to do something. You hear me? Mm-hmm. You'll catch that one later. Come on, let's read. Go ahead and finish it out. 64.
Read the fourth, or read the back out.
Read all the way to 67 and then 25 and 18.
64 reads, Then Ribkah lifted her eyes, and when she saw Isaac, she dismounted from her camel. For she had said to the servant, "Who was this man walking in the excuse me. Read that again. For For she had said to the servant, "Who is this man walking in the field to meet us?" And the servant said, "It is my master." So she took a veil and covered herself. And the servant told Isaac all the things that he had done. Then Isaac brought her into his mother's Sarah's tent, and he took Rivkah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. So Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. 25:18. They dwelt from Havilah as far as Shur, which is east of Mizraim. As you go toward Assyria, he died in the presence of all his brethren. And it is so.
And it is so. Now, once again, look at how this was done. She dismounted from her camel. Why did she get off the camel? Because according to custom, it was for them to get off the ride and bow. Not because they were worshiping them in that sense, but to give respect, to bow. And then when she covered herself, it was to show she was willing to marry him and show a sign of submission. Not so much that this was going to be her whole life, because that tells you she was not covered when she was coming to him. Once again, people take stuff out of context and think a woman's supposed to have none but her eyeballs coming out of her clothing. But at the same time, we understand that was her way of saying, "I will marry you." And if you notice, they didn't stand before a judge, they didn't stand before anybody. What caused their marriage to be legitimate was their consummation of the marriage. What was the band? Well, the band and the nose ring, that was symbolic of them being married. Now, a lot of times people, well, we don't wear rings. I'm sorry, I like my diamonds and I like my gold. Mm-hmm. But they had bands. Are you hearing me? Bracelets and the nose ring. But what was the contract? It was the consummation. That is why it is important that you just don't sleep with anybody. It is. A lot of people think, well, I'm not married to that person, and I'm not with this person, and so on and so on. But that's still, you give yourself away. So that's another thing that's important, especially women, men as well, but especially women. If he's not going to put a nose ring, you're just going to put, what was it, Beyonce, just going to put a ring on? Good thing, all right, put me a nose ring in my nose and give me some gold bracelets. And then it has to be acceptable. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Once again, go through all the crazy changes. But this is what was done, and this is what was showing her submission or submissiveness to him, and that she was going to marry him, is that this is what she did. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Because she agreed to go with him, and so because she agreed to go with him, she agreed to the terms that were given. Once again, very important that we follow this, and it is so. And then look, whose tent did he have? His Emma's. The place that he grew in, the place that she took care of him, and she was right there. And then his wife came in and comforted him in that same place. Are you hearing me? Yes. It's important that we understand that. Once again, one wife, not no 3 or 4, one, because that's all he needed. And he accepted her. Now you have to understand, he was bringing up him somebody's sight unseen. But you have to understand, he trusted God, but trusted the servant that he was going to bring him, the right person. And it is so. Well, everybody got the giggles on. He knew what type of person to get, because I believe that Sarah was beautiful. I believe she was beautiful. Melody woman, I really do. And so he wanted to make sure his son had the same beauty within his life. And it is so. All right, let's read 3 verses. Let's go to Malachi Aleph chapter 1. Silly. All right. Malachi Aleph, chapter 1, verse 1. Let's read 4 verses. 572. Got it? All right. 572. You got it? Okay, while you're getting it, I'll go ahead and read to verse 4. Now King Dawood was old and stricken in years, and they covered him with clothes, but he could not get warm. Therefore his servant said to him, let there be sought for my sovereign king a young virgin, and let her stand before the king, and let her cherish him, and let her lie in your bosom, that my sovereign king may get warm. So they sought for a fair damsel throughout the coast of Israel, found Abishag, a Shunammite, and brought her to the king. And the damsel was very fair, and cherished the king, and ministered to him, but the king knew her not. All right, now, Dawood, we know Dawood was a man, a king, after Yahuwah's own heart. We know that there were things that he did, and we knew, as a king, he made some horrible mistakes, able to pull himself up out of the mistakes. He got caught up with things, he got caught up in his flesh, he got caught in his emotions, and he married. And I believe that, I believe with all truthfulness, he loved Bathsheba. I really do. Because even after the loss of their first child, he took her in again, and she conceived and brought forth Suleiman. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
She loved him. Now you have to understand, when you got people around you that kind of think that what's best for you, you wonder, why didn't he bring her back in there? I don't believe it was because of his request, but the people that were around him. Are you hearing me? That did that. Because if you notice, Suleiman was with Bathsheba the whole time. He wasn't with the king. Even though you would think that he was right there to be, to speak into his life and to groom him, it was his mother. It was his imam. Right. But they said, he can't get warm. He can't get warm. So they sought a young virgin for him. He never asked for that. Set you up and believe that's what you want. That's what they'll tend to try to wait. But he didn't accept it. And so they sought this person, and she just said she was fair. There's a difference. Are you hearing me? Yes. Beautiful fair. And she ministered to him, but the king knew her not. In other words, he did not sleep with her. He was not intimate with her. You have to understand the ramifications that come about if he would have slept with her. Because he was still the king. And you have to understand, according to the way the structure was, Bathsheba would be the queen, and Suleiman would be the prince, because that was the last person that he was intimate with. And if another person would have come up, you know all the chaos and the confusion that could have taken place. Once again, that's why some people need to just sit down and be still. Some people trying to push people in your life. This person would be good for you. I think you would like them. I think this would be the person. Especially when they don't have no connection to you. Are you hearing me? I'm not talking about your parents now. I'm talking about other people. I think this person would be good for you. Be like, I don't think so. They ain't the one. But once again, this is what they were doing. All right, let's read 5, 6, 7, 8. 572. Verse 5. Read all the way to 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
Verse 5, and it reads, Then Adoniah, the son of Haggith, exalted himself, saying, I will be king. And he prepared chariots and horsemen, and 50 men to run before him. And his father had not displeased him at any time in saying, Why have you done so? And he also was a very goodly man, and his mother gave him birth after Absalom. And he conferred with Joab, the son of Zeruiah, and Abiathar, the Kohen, and they, following Adoniah, helped him.
And so now we look at what's about to take place. A coup is about to try to take place. The son of Haggith exalting himself, saying, I will be king, and he prepared him chariots and horsemen and 50 men to run before him. And his father had not been saying, Why have you done so? And he also was a very goodly man. And his mother gave him birth after Absalom. But a whole lot of stuff about to take place in this. Let's read 8, 9, 10. Yeah. 8, 9, and 10.
But Zadok the Kohen, and Benaiah the son of Yahuiada, and Nathan the prophet, and Shimei, and Ray, and the mighty men which belonged to Dawood, were not with Adoniah. And Adoniah slew sheep and oxen and fat cattle by the stone of Zoheleth, which is by En Rogel, and called all his brethren the king's sons, and all the men of Yehuda, the king's servants. Verse 10. But Nathan the prophet, and Benaiah, and the mighty men, and Sulamon his brother, he called not.
Because he knew he was the rightful heir, so he didn't want him there, because they hated him. It was all, like one of those, Joseph and his brothers. All right, come on, 11, 12. 11 to 14. Do 11 to 14.
Therefore Nathan spoke to Bathsheba, the mother of Sulamon, saying, Have you not heard that Adoniah, the son of Haggith, does reign, and Dawood, our sovereign, knows it not? Now therefore come, let me, I pray you, give you counsel, that you may take your own life and the life of your son Sulamon. Go to King Dawood and say to him, Did you not, my sovereign, swear to your handmaid, saying, Surely Sulamon your son shall reign after me, sit upon my throne? Why then does Adoniah reign? Adonai reign. Behold, while you yet talk there with the king, I also will come in after you and confirm your words. And it is so.
And it is so. It's like, no, we got to get this dummy off the throne. In layman's terms, we got to get this dummy off the throne. You hear me? Because technically, once again, because Bathsheba was the last one he was with, she was the queen, she was his wife, and that was the son. And so it's important that we understand order, okay?
Yes.
All right. And then once again, let's look. We're not just looking at order, but we're looking at who is advising. Now, mind you, remember, Zerubbabel is still under the care of his who? Emma. She was teaching him, just like Sarah was teaching Isaac. She was teaching him. She was grooming him. She was nurturing him. Right. A woman ain't supposed to teach him, but that's a lie. Don't believe that lie. He was right there up under her. Even when he took the throne, she was right there beside him. So once again, it's important. Traditions. The traditions of men make the Torah of none effect. In who? In the person life that believe that the traditions is better or that is more powerful than truth.
That's right.
That's how it makes it of none effect. Not because it doesn't have power, but because you place more emphasis on tradition than on truth.
That's right.
All right, come on, let's read.
Verse
15.
16.
15, 16, 17, and 18. I'm sorry. We don't go 18.
And Bathsheba went into the king into the chamber. And the king was very old. And Abishai the Shunammite ministered to the king. And And Bathsheba bowed and paid homage to the king. And the king said, "What do you desire?"
Now watch this. Wow. The other lady could not get a response out of it. But when the queen came in, he said, "What do you desire?" All they had to do was put the right person in there, and it would have gotten to respond.
Right.
All they had to do. Once again, they thought they knew him so well that all they had to do was throw a young body in there, and they were just gonna go crazy over it. One thing about it, never ever let anybody basically shape your life based upon past experiences.
That's right.
That's right.
Or past things you've done.
That's correct.
Because when she went in there, he asked her after she paid homage, "What do you desire?" He didn't say anything to that girl. She did all the ministering and everything. He didn't say anything because that's not what he wanted. And he was old. That lets you know Bathsheba was not that old. She was younger. But he knew the queen, and that's who he responded to. All right, let's read.
Verse 17. And she said to him, "My father, you swore by Yahuwah your power to your handmaid, saying, Assuredly Suleiman your son shall reign after me, and he shall sit upon my throne. And now behold, Adonai reigns, and now am as to the king, you know it not." And it is so.
And it is so. All right. 19, 20, 21, 22.
He has slain oxen, in fact, kept the sheep in abundance, has called all the sons of King, and
Ebenezer,
the Cohen, and Joab the commander of the armies. So Suleiman, your servant, has not called. And you, my master, O king, the eyes of all Yahweh are upon you, that you should tell them who shall sit on the throne of my master, the king, after him. Otherwise, it shall come to pass when my master the king shall sleep with his
Amos.
that I and my son Suleiman shall be counted offenders. It is so.
And it is so. Once again, she had to remind him. It is almost like Dawood is at a place in his life here when we see it's almost like he's just given up being king. Because he's old, he just kind of has digressed into this place. But they have to remind him, you're not going yet. You still have to set things in order. You still have to place things in their proper manner. If not, we're going to be in chaos. You got to put these things in place. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
All right. Come on, let's read. She said, we're going to be counted as offenders. And you know what happened to offenders? They die.
And look, while she had told the king, Nathan the prophet also came in. And they told the king, saying, Behold Nathan the prophet. And when he was come in before the king, he bowed himself before the king with his face to the ground. And Nathan said, My master, O king, have you said, Adonai shall reign after me, and he shall sit upon my throne. For he has gone down this day, and he has slain oxen and fat cattle and sheep in abundance, and has called all the king's sons and the commanders of the armies, and Abiathar, the Kohen. And behold, they eat and drink before him, and say, Power save King Adonai.
And it is so. Once again, call to action, call to action. All right. 26, 27, and 28.
Verse 26. And it reads, But me, even me, your servant, and Zadok the Kohen, and Benaiah, the son of Yahuiada, and your servant Sulamon has he not called? Is this thing done by my master, the king? And you have not showed it to your servant. Who should sit on the throne of my master, the king, after him? Then King Dawood answered and said, Call me Bathsheba. And she came into the king's presence and stood before him. The king did so.
Once again, because he trusted Nathan the prophet, because he's the one that basically caused him to open up his eyes to what he had done with Bathsheba. All right, let's read. 29, 30, and 31.
And the king swore and said, As Yahuwah lives, that has redeemed my soul out of all distress, even as I swore to you by Yahuwah, power of Yasrael, saying, Assuredly Sul-Amon, your son, shall reign after me, and he shall sit upon my throne in my place. Even so will I certainly do this day.
31.
Verse 31. Then Bathsheba bowed with her face to the ground, and did reverence to the king, and said, Let my master King Dawood live forever.
So he did everything needed to be done. He followed all the preliminaries that exalt above all that. Once again, it's important that you get stuff in order. Now, once again, let's turn our attention to Corinthians, chapter 15. And we're going to look at verses 50 through 57 verses. But one thing you have to look at right here, these were children by other women. Other women. Polygamy. These were children. And they hated. You have to wonder, why did they hate Suleiman? They hated Suleiman because you have to understand the position he and his Ema were in, and they were not. You got the first, if you got 4 wives, you got the first wife that's going to always be acknowledged and recognized before all the rest of them. The last one hardly is ever recognized because she's the last wife. It's always the first one gets all the recognition because truthfully, she is the original wife. She is the senior wife. And no matter how sisters try to play that, you know, because it's cool with me. Okay, it's cool with you. Let us see inside, you know, put you on a lie detector. And not only that, let us see what you be saying when you get into them situations. Like I say, you ain't gonna tell me that you're content with that. You're only content with that because they make you feel you have to be content with that. No. You only have to be. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
It's amazing. You don't want to share your underwear with nobody, do you? Huh?
No.
Didn't think so. So why would they think that a woman would want to share her husband with another man? I mean, with another woman. Men don't want to share their wives.
Nope. So
why is it that men always believe that they can have 4 and 5 wives, and they're supposed to get along and laugh and talk and, girl, because he looked just like his daddy. So he. And we just supposed to laugh and we supposed to talk and we just supposed to be so cordial. And then you just happen to say one thing. Well, you know what? He was telling me this. Really? You don't tell me that. I don't care what nobody say. There's going to be some disturbance in the shalom.
That's right.
Oh, he combs your hair, huh? Y'all sitting, y'all have talks, and he combs your hair. Well, he don't do none of that with me. He just bossed me around. You don't think there's going to be some problems? Or you're going to tell them, do not talk in that manner with each other. Now you place restrictions on them because you don't want them to be said. Now that's still going to be friction. Because you're going to tell me I can't talk and I can't do. Are you understanding me? That's crazy. And if you have one good one tell you something, she takes the place 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's true. That's lust when you have to have 3, 4, 5. That's right. That's lust. I don't care what nobody says. I don't see nowhere in tradition and history that it says they're supposed to do that. That men are supposed to do that. That's lust.
That's right.
And it is so.
And it is so.
All right. Corinthians chapter 15, verses 50 through 57. We have 2 verses. Let's everybody read one.
15 starting where?
50.
Now this I say, brothers, that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of Yahuwah, neither does corruption inherit incorruption. And it is so.
And it is so. Now, once again, you cannot. Now, this I say, brothers, that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of Yahuwah, neither does corruption and incorruption. Now, once again, you have to understand that also goes back to Ishmael. Ishmael could not inherit the kingdom because he was of the what? Flesh. He could not. And when you're outside of covenant, you can inherit the kingdom. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
All right. Neither does corruption inherit incorruption. Can't do it. All right, let's read. Verse 51.
Behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed. And it is so.
And it is so. All right, 52.
In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last shofar, for the shofar shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. And it is so.
And it is so. Now let me read a portion of this footnote real quick. The last trumpet is the great trumpet call at the feast of Yom Teruah, the feast of trumpets, when Star Yahushua descend. The rabbis knew that the blast alluded to divine kindness, strict judgment, and mercy. It will be kindness to those who did accept him and loved him. It will be mercy to those who still are alive and can accept him, and judgment for those who still refuse. The shofar will be a wake-up call to the world, to those who did not repent yet, but to the others who did. They will not have a chance to go back, while the ones who died in belief will now have the opportunity to serve Yahushua in fullness. Once again, it's important that we understand feasts. No matter how Christianity has tried to do away with it, that's why we keep the feast. Not because we know when he's coming, but because we know it's going to be at one of these appointed times. And what way? And we are following in the feast that when he shows up, he finds us where? In position. That's important to us. Very important to us as his people. All right, let's read.
But this corruptible must put on incorruption, and this mortal must put on immortality. And it is
so. All right, 54.
So when this corruption and this mortal shall have put on immortality, then shall be brought to pass the saying that is written, death is swallowed up in victory.
And it is so. And it is so. So when this corruptible shall have put on incorruption, and this mortal shall have put on immortality, then shall be brought to pass the saying that is written, death is swallowed up in victory. Because you have to understand, as long as we continue to walk and maintain, and we put on incorruption and mortality, mortal, and this mortal shall be put into immortality. You know how you hear about the immortals? They can't die. Why? Because they have transcended. Their transcending means they have changed to where they can't die. So once again, we will be in that place where we will be immortals, but not in the sense of cartoons and comics, but in the sense because we live for Yahuwah, and that's how we're going to be changed through Yahusha. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Just like he was changed. All right, let's read.
Verse 55. And it reads, O death, where is your sting? O death, where is your victory? And it is so.
And it is so. Once again, O death, where is your sting? O death, where is your sting? O death, where is your victory? There is none. We walk in truth. All right, 56.
The sting of death is sin, and the strength of sin is violating the Torah. It is so.
Read that again.
The sting of death is sin, and the strength of sin is violating the Torah.
Now, verse 55 and 56 go together. O death, where is your sting? O death, where is your victory? The sting of death is sin. So if there is no sting, that means there is no room for death. What is Torah? What is Torah? It is the doctrine or the teachings or the instructions of Abba Yahuwah.
That's right.
What is breaking the Torah? It's sin. When you break the commandments, when you don't follow his instructions, that's sin. Once again, people can never really tell you in Christianity because we're always taught to believe that smoking, drinking, homonging is sinning. Those are the results of not following after Torah. Those are the results. All right. I want to read a little bit of this review, and then we're going to read verse 57, and we're going to close. If you continue to violate Torah, as many are doing in the churches, then that is the strength of sin. The likes of the German theologian Martin Luther said the following. In reply to a letter to Luther written to Philip Melanchthon on August 1st, 1521, Luther, the confused theologian, wrote some outrageous things, part true and part false. This is what happens when people disobey and do not understand the mercy that came out of the Torah or the judgment that will proceed. This is the quote. If you are a preacher, and this is what he's talking about grace, then preach a true and not fictitious grace. If grace is true, you must bear a true and not a fictitious sin. Yahuwah does not save people who are only fictitious sinners. Be a sinner and sin boldly. But believe and rejoice, this is what he said, in Christ even more boldly. For he is victorious over sin, death, and the world. As long as we are here in this world, we have to sin. This life is not the dwelling place of uprightness. But as Peter says, we look for a new Shemayim and a new earth in which righteousness dwells. It is enough that by the riches of Yahuwah's beauty, we have come to know the Lamb that takes away the sin of the world. No sin will separate us from the Lamb, even though we commit fornication and murder 1,000 times a day. Do you think that the purchase price that was paid for the redemption of our sins by so great Lamb is too small? Pray boldly. You too are a mighty sinner. End quote. It was rhetorical. No, Luther has a lot to answer for because as a result of his writings, these things brought about many things for Ibram and other people who were considered low class, and also he had Ibram synagogues burned and had many Ibram people killed. So once again, I'm going to stop right there with that because it's a lot. But just to allude to why people believe the way they believe, that's why Christianity does what they do, because they honestly believe that that is the way we're supposed to live. If you're going to sin, be a bold sinner. Mm-hmm. And then once again, you know, he paid it, and there's nothing you could do to get out. You start thinking if you ain't living right, you're already out. Mm-hmm. Once again, it's important that we understand that. All right, verse 57.
Verse 57. But thanks be to Yahuwah, which gives us the victory through sovereign, Yahushua Mashiach.
Read that one more time.
But thanks be to Yahuwah, which gives us the victory through our sovereign, Yahushua the Mashiach.
And it is so. And verse 58 says, therefore, my beloved brothers, be ye steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of Yahuwah, for as much as you know that your labor is not in vain in Yahuwah. Are you hearing me? Yes. Everything that we do points right back to Yahuwah.
That's right.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Come on, put your hands together. As we have come to the close of our class, not our time of rest, I want to say to you, we love you, we're praying with you, and we're praying for you. Also, I want to open this time up for comments or questions. If you have any, you may ask now. If not, we're going to move on. Any questions, comments? We're good. We're good.
There was a question earlier, there's a question from one of the ops that was in. He was asking earlier in the service, he was saying, does April begin, according to the Gregorian calendar, does April begin our new year as the Hebrew?
I have answer for that, but it's going to take me a minute. I have it, but I have to put that in, and that's a lot. But yes, I know what he's asking, but it's not April. That actually is the month of. That is the month of Nisan, which is Abib. Which Abib is not a month; it is a season. It is the spring season. No, it is not our new year. We just celebrated our new year. That begins our new month, though. That's when we come into the new season, which is the month of Abib. And so we come into the new season, not the new year. And that's when we start up with our spring and summer feasts. That's when that time comes up, which I'm so excited. Every time I read about the feasts and I see how we are to follow them, it just makes you just so much more excited about that time. Are you hearing me? To be knowing you're walking in truth, and you got the writings to back it up, and you don't have to be like, well, Christianity said this, but I don't see this in there like that. And you got to twist your mind, twist your mouth all up to make sure it fits in there. Yes, it is our new season that we walk in the month of Abib, which is the season of Abib. It is the month of Nisan. So, yes, it is our new season. And once again, I will be putting those up. And for those of you that want to know the feast days, I will make sure that my administrators get that to you. I know that I owe some personally to get that to you, and I will. I just ask that you give me just a little bit of time, but we'll get that to you definitely, and real soon, real soon. And it is so.
It is.
And it is so. We good over there? Any questions?
Yes, there's a question from Sister Stella concerning the Ruach.
Okay.
Basically, the feminine. She's saying there was a video out about the Holy Spirit. I believe the feminine saying it is not a female part of Yah. Saying out. She was asking if you could explain. It's not. I'm sure she.
What is her question?
Basically, wanting to know if the Ruach is feminine or not.
Yes. Yes. It is, I don't want to say it, she is a part of the heavenly family, not the Godhead, as so many have said, not Trinity, because we don't believe in that. But she is a part of the family. She is a part of the Shemayim Council. We put it in those terms. And she is the expression of Abba Yahuwah. And so she is not his wife. You know, that's what people are always trying to, that mindset is that if you say male and female, that there has to be a relationship of intimacy in that respect. But she is a part of him. She is the expression of him in the sense of she is our teacher, she's our leader, she's our guide, and she is a part of the Mishpachah in Shemayim. And yes, she is feminine. And when you look at how the church fathers did, they basically made everything male. Everything male. From Christianity said God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Ghost. Those are terms that they came up with. Those are not the original terms or titles of the family of Shemayim. Once again, you have Yahuwah, which is the Abba, Yahusha, which is the Son, also the Torah, and you have the Ruach Kodesh, which is the expression, and she is a part of Yahuwah. And so when it comes to those things, if you can't find it in the writings, don't follow behind that stuff because it'll have you confused. It'll have you confused. And we come to know that she is a part of him through scripture. That through the writing, like use scripture through the writings. So it's important that we understand that. Once again, most of the time when you have people that refute that, it is because they have a problem with women in general. Everything to be male, male, male. Now, when I say this, understand Yahuwah did everything, but he had those a part of his council that put their hands to certain things and did certain things. Now, once again, when he said, let us make mankind or humanity in our image, there was an image, a feminine image, and it did not come from him. It did not come from him. So it's important that we understand he had this image up there. And so once again, when it comes to people refuting and bickering over stuff like that, my suggestion is stay away from that stuff. Follow in Torah. Ground yourself in Torah truth. Most of that stuff is brought forth for debation. People want to debate. People want to see what you know, how much you know, and where you got your information from. It's important, once again, to stay away from those type of things. Leave that stuff alone. And once again, especially when you understand and you're walking in truth, that he does have an expression, and that is the Ruach Kodesh, which is feminine. Not him. You know, the Catholics say the feminine side of him. He has no feminine side. Right. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Nowhere in scripture or the writings does it say he have a feminine side. All that stuff came up out of Roman Catholicism. And once again, when you look at how they always want to answer and how they always want to manipulate and twist and basically maim the writings, you have to stay away from that stuff. But once again, she is a part of him, and she does have assignments. And remember when Yahushua said in the book of Acts, he said, I have to go. He said, because I don't go, he said that I can be the comforter, which will come and comfort you. Now, you have to understand, when we talked about the Holy Ghost back in Christianity, which is pneumatology, when you start talking about the Ruach, which they didn't call Ruach, they call the Holy Ghost, they made it neuter. That's why they said it, because it says it has no gender. That automatically lets you know there that there's a gender. When anytime they take away, because if it was male, they would have had no problem with saying it.
Right.
No problem. But she is the expression of Yahuwah. And so she has a part, and she is a part of the family of Shemayim. And once again, I would suggest stay away from those things, because once again, those things do not do anything but gender strife and confusion. And if it's based, if it's feminist or people doing it, most of the time they themselves don't know who they are. And so they're going to fight and bicker over stuff like that. But once again, yes, she is feminine, and she is a part of the family of Shemayim. And it is so. And it is so. All right. Any other questions or comments?
Definitely comment. Just wanted to say, very well said. That was a really great adventure to go through once again. Every time we look at it, we can always see it from a whole new point of view. Everything that's ever said, you can actually see it in the Hebraic perspective. Everything is completely changed. Christianity is more of a storybook. Now, from here, this is actually history. These are our ancestors and things that have actually occurred. The whole experience is really vivid and reawakening to the senses that we once had from back then. Everything that you brought out, nobody says it like you. It was a truly outstanding and an awesome message. Everything from the basic principles of life and the not so basic things about marriage, and even for the future, preparing to be able to prepare, another life, to prepare to be able to have your own family and to have good principles and based off of what everybody's life in the Hebraic belief needs to be based off of, and that's the Torah. And even being able to see the examples. Every time I see the people, the characters, and everything that they display, and the reason why how Yahuwah allowed many things to happen, because he was teaching us a lesson. Because whenever somebody had ever decided to cause their master or their sovereign one to marry one of the nurse wives, that always ended up, if it wasn't jealousy, envy, or spite towards the other person, they became our enemy. Because the Ammonites, the Moabites, and even Ishmael, Yahuwah was showing us, he's telling us by, it says not so much by not telling us, but showing us that if we keep this up, we're just adding negatives. And
Right,
actually put it up, we're probably, for the people that actually agree with that, aren't going to be here. So thank you for allowing us to see that, and for allowing us to be able to come to a place that even in this, it shows us, well, not so much even, but it shows us how even to be good to our neighbor and to make sure that we're always in good conversations. I mean, communication in general. Because every time I saw their lives, to see Sarah, to be broken down to the point where she was like stone, it's something that you really don't want to have to picture in your mind, seeing someone so broken and so distraught like that. But Yahuwah gave this to us so that we could see it as an example. So we have to learn from it, from what we've been given, and you've done an excellent job of doing that. And it always just brings to mind, whenever I see their lives like that, it was off of a poem that I had written. And the title was Continue. And the choice is up to you. And from seeing all of this, it really gets me in the zone. It really charges me. It really just inspires me to really want to aim beyond my depth and actually hit the belief that was meant to be hit. Because I see why they call Abraham the Abba of belief, because his love for Yahuwah superseded all that he had encountered. No matter what had tried to come his way, it only made him stronger. So what the enemy wanted to use as his brawn became his bane because of belief. Thus, I love the way his life was lived. To see these examples now, everything is just so much more vividly explained, and I love every moment of it. And it is so.
And it is so.
Just want to make a comment. Good lesson, very well taught. And it was a wealth of information that was put out. Also, kudos to my son on his compliment, because I'm sure there are a lot of people that even as they were listening to his discourse, and that just kind of just the way people process things. And when he was talking about Abraham, and he was saying that how that was turned into his bane. I know somebody was thinking, man, I ain't know Batman was that. I do so. It's sad because we need to broaden our horizons and our scopes. Because he wasn't there, I was later. But one of the things that I like I like everything that you brought out. Again, it was well taught. And something that I find though is that when you find a lot of brothers that are contentious about as far as their dealings with women and so forth, is that we have to be as Hebrew, we have to be Hebrew men. We have to be careful because if we don't, we'll start acting like Muslims. We'll act like the mother. We went, me and my son, Jalen, went to the store the other night, which he was taking pictures and dancing and sending messages. But anyway, the ice cream was cold. I had the whole ice cream because he won't take pictures. But anyway, but there was a gentleman in front of me, and I didn't know if that was his. I'm assuming one was his wife, but I think they both probably were. And anyway, but and so I'm looking at that. If we're not careful, there will be, as it is, as born again believers, there's to be a difference between us and the world.
That's right.
And again, as the chosen, set apart, and called out people, again, if we're not careful, there will be no difference between us and the rest of those in the eastern regions in the Middle East, because there's a similar belief system. I mean, genealogically, they're our cousins.
Right, that's right.
And distant though they may be, but they're still our cousins, and they're still family. And so, but we will tend to follow not after the set apart ways. We'll tend to follow in our ways. There's even some similarities in the language. And so we'll tend to end up following more along that way and that tradition versus following what the Abba has set apart. There was so much that was brought out as how she came down off of the camel and she veiled herself, which was unveiled previously. Exactly. And she was supposed to be veiled around men. She should have had a veil on the whole time. Exactly. With under control. And so, and it just shows the common courtesy. And again, people start thinking about bowing. I ain't no slave. Well, actually, yeah, you are, but slave to the misguided to those that don't really see the truth and the ways that we're to carry ourselves, adopting other people's traditions and thinking that everybody on how to the east, one brother to the east, and now everybody's Egyptian. Man, please. But we know everybody's not Israel, so and they definitely show it.
because there's still no home for Torah in the hearts of many. But one of the things that you find that I found was in that I really don't and will not. Well, I'm not saying will not because there are out there that will actually acknowledge it. And I'm sure that there are many. I know some that will that whatever police. I'm sure there are others besides TV, but she else is a sick name. But anyway, y'all know what I'm talking about. Anyway, that's yeah, I know, but anyway, that thing. But anyway, one of the things that you find is that when he went and put the ring in the nose, put the bracelets on the arm, and it's like, oh, she got to go. But when they went, there was a question asked: do you want to go?
Mm-hmm.
Because she could have said, "This is nice and everything. Thank y'all for this, but I can't accept this because no." She could have said no. Because she went and got with Robin, and it was like, okay, and they were like, "Well, you go." She was like, "Okay, yeah, I go." Because I don't care if somebody drives a Lexus, a Mercedes, and a Bentley up, and they come and they put 24 karat and they come with 9.99% in a wheel route up to the front door, and they say, okay, this is for Amuni or this is for Yasmin, and I'm like, well, okay, thank you, and you bye, because I'm sure you just must be dropping it off for some reason, but you know, and do you choose to dwell with them? I mean, of course, it would be our choice, and yeah, it would be our choice, and so, but again, you know, they were able to express choice,
Exactly.
and that's one of the things that's missing a lot in the narrative. Is that because people want to get so absolute with a lot of things, and so because again, like I say, coming to America, it made a decent point, but they strayed because he left, and then of course, in the first he get one misrepresentation is that he's going to go get this high yellow woman instead of leaving the richly melanated women over there, and you start thinking, well, they were doing this, but they did that according to their culture, according to their upbringing, and so. And again, like I say, because nobody wants a dope. Nobody wants someone. That's the thing. One of the key things that I loved about you was the fact that you're just not a yes person. You're just not. I didn't want a black blonde. You're not black anyway, but that's just real. I did not want no, just like somebody who's just. I mean, there are no people in the world, young ladies, that are so willing to please that they don't express who they are. They end up losing themselves in relationships, and they just think, oh, everything just revolves around this person. No, you have to value you.
Exactly.
Because if you don't value you, nobody else will.
Exactly.
And if you don't carry value, then the person that you're with is going to devalue you.
That's
and so, and the scripture even lets us know that we're not to think more highly of ourselves than we ought to think. So that means I ought to think highly, but not more highly.
That's right.
And so, because then you find yourself walking in the three chief sins: the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eye, and the pride of life. Sin falls in the categories. I don't care what sin it is; it falls in the three categories.
That's right.
And so, and that's pride of life. You know, I really. Can you change the stature of your height? Can you change your hair color from whatever to no? I'm not talking about dark and lovely, but I'm talking about, you can't do it in and of your own self. But again, like I said, it was a very well taught lesson, and which that just shows your quality. It never ceases to amaze me the way that you bring out and the way that you're able to orate and to bring forth a lesson and just the depth of teaching that you bring. So, oh my son. But definitely kudos to you, and thank you more for the level of teaching and the level of doctrine you bring forth, because it dispels a lot of myths, and the fact that you take the time to answer, and that and I like the fact that even though there are those that will be they're just diametrically opposed to teaching because of whatever belief system that they've come into. And that's part of it, is adopting a lot of things, because a lot of things we weren't raised into this culture. Islam these people are raised into Islam. Buddhism, their bread is raised a part of their culture. And so as we come to understand, it's not religion, it's lifestyle. And as we come into this, and then we're able from this point on bring our children up into it. There are many like Cohilas and some others that they were raised this way. The other young man that came, his image, he raised him that way. And so there are some generations that have, but thankfully, there are more that are waking up, and that are able to raise our children, truly bringing them up in the way that they should go, so that when they're older, they will not stray from it and walk after it. And thank you for the teaching, and because you are a dynamic and a true teacher, and then just for the woman that you are, and the leader that you are, and just how powerful you are, because you just makes your man good. And so,
that's in the writings.
And you've raised wonderful, beautiful children. Some of them, anyway. Soon we dismiss. I have a meeting. But I definitely thank you, and then the fact that we're able to share you with the rest of the world. So that's why, and I'm thankful for those that do tune in and listen, that are respectful, that are mannerable, because if not, so I love you so much, and thank you.
And it is so. And it is so. Once again, it's an awesome thing to be able to do, and then we can laugh about it, not because we're making light of it, but because we do understand. The joy of Abba Yahuwah is our strength. And when that joy is realized, because you realize, we're walking in truth, yo. You know how long it took me to get to this place? It took me years. Because that was my goal, to know truth and to walk in that place and to know him and to know what was acceptable, what was unacceptable. And now I'm walking in it and with confidence. And every day I open myself to him, he's always showing me something new. That's what's important. It's not about chasing the crowds. It's not about having crowds chase you. Because all the crowds, everybody in the crowd ain't in there for the right reason. But for the ones that are hungry and thirsty after uprightness, that's all that matters. Because you know why? They're coming to eat and they're coming to drink, and they're not going to waste anything. When people are really hungry, it doesn't matter what you give them. And you know what I mean when I say that. I'm talking about kosher-wise. They're ready to eat. They ain't gonna sit there and pick over, well, I can't take it because the server ain't the right person. It's the right food, but the server ain't the right person. No, I want to eat because it's truth. And have a clean life, and because they have a clean life, I can trust them. So once again, I do appreciate Abba Yahuwah for what he's doing, what he's done, for what he's yet going to do in our lives and through our lives. Any other questions or comments?
But very good lesson, very thought-provoking indeed. It was beautiful last night how you expounded on the writings in the book of Jeshurun, and very admirable how you've pointed out the discrepancy, even in the things that we receive that come across us. Like you always say, you can listen to a person, or you can hear a person, but it takes listening to that person to know that person, to know their habits and their ways, and how you get that understanding and you will apply it to Torah reading, to Torah teaching. It's very admirable, and your resolve as a teacher that not only do you give out, but you also are first partaker of everything that you receive, even as it is according to the Torah, because you point out the discrepancy in there, all keeping in mind that the places that you may have fallen short of, you always go back and you always make sure that you clear those areas up, and that's very admirable in a teacher and in the position of a prophet and a judge, and that's something to look up to. A beautiful message on today, and even concerning the things that were taught on and expounded on today concerning basically the mindset of building and developing as believers, because there's much confusion, there's much mental chaos that is out there, and chaos, one of the key seeds of chaos is fear.
Mhm.
And people that think basically that they have the upper hand, most of the time, them trying to get the upper hand is only a result of their fear that they will always be below somebody else. Even for, because I was even thinking on it, for every time that you see in scripture where polygamy was instituted, it was the result of sin, or it was the processing of sinful nature. In Abraham's case, it was to try to divert the purpose of Yahuwah to see if it could be brought through another woman.
Right.
And
Exactly.
the case of Joseph, it was Laban's deception that brought about two wives. In that case, that was sinful because he deceived his nephew. So anytime there was a polygamous relationship, it was always under the context of someone either being deceived, and through that deception, unfortunately, in that time, there was no one to point out that deception. So what was a mistake gradually became from a mistake to a custom, and that custom was adopted by our people and ingrained into some of our people's into their agenda, into their agenda of what they believe Torah is about. Even as we were talking on last Sabbath about having an agenda, basically clear yourself out before you go to study, because whatever you go in there, whatever's on your mind, if you're thinking about money, if you're thinking about basically obtaining the world, when you look in scripture, that's what you're going to try to find. And basically, that is what you're going to try to base your doctrine off of. And I acknowledge that when you go into scripture, you don't basically go in there with your own agenda, and you're not going in there trying to bash anyone or to trying to demean anyone. If there's any type of demeaning coming or any sort of abasement that comes, it's only by the scripture and purely by knowledge. And I always tell those that I talk with, my brothers and my sisters and those that are close to us, knowledge is separation. Just as plainly as it is said, it's not putting yourself above anyone in any standard. Because anyone with wisdom knows that a king serves first. Anyone in high position, you're not up there to exalt yourself. You're up there to branch out help to the lower regions. And that's why I love economics. But anyway, but knowledge is separation, because when you have knowledge, it puts you in a place to distribute. And as you distribute, it's very admirable, and I admire your resolve to distribute in proportion to people's understanding and not giving them too much, because like I said, knowledge is separation, and when knowledge is corrupted and convoluted by everything that is out there, it separates you, but it secludes you and makes you reclusive in your own self-understanding. That breeds self-righteousness, which is just a plague in and of itself. So very good teaching, very well done, and very well said from one that gave a comment concerning the teaching. Shalom.
Shalom. And it is so. Everybody's good. A comment?
Yes, Sophia. She said, "Hallelujah, Shabbat Shalom, everyone." So that's the word.
I am. And it is so. Everybody's good. Awesome.
Once again, it's a very awesome teaching, very enlightening. You're scaring away the ignorance, which is a good thing. Getting the people into truth and helping them getting up with the levels. They're breaking it up like pieces of bread. You get that piece, you break it in half. When you're talking, you're breaking the pieces in half. And once again, a very good teaching, as always.
Because you know the key of life, that's what it is. Because when you eat of this bread, you'll hunger no more. And when you drink of this mayim, you will thirst no more. In other words, you won't want anything else, because you will have a sole appetite just for this. Once again, I want to say to for all of your comments, the questions. Once again, it is an awesome time to be in, because we are awaking to truth. And not just, he didn't stop us there. Now he's bringing us into a truth, and he's correcting some wrongs, and he's bringing us to a place to understand that we've got to know how to dig in deep. Once again, when you go through years and years of transformation, especially our writings, it's important that we understand writings that were given to us, how to listen. And once again, I'm a stickler for vibration. Even though, I know when people in Kemet say it, they say it for a whole nother thing. But there's something about your words. If you ever notice, even talk is like we're rhyming. Mm-hmm. It's like you hear that music in your words when you read, when you're talking, you can hear the music in it, and it's just that. And when you find that, and you see, that's how come when you're talking to people, have you ever noticed that when something is bothering them, you can hear that low in their voice? Mm-hmm. Yes. Because the rhythm is not as upbeat when there's something going on. It's like that sound is not there, but you can tell when they're upbeat and when everything is going well, because it's like that rhythm in their voice. As they speak, you can hear it, and it's almost like it's just constantly, and they got your attention. But then when it's when there's something going on, it's like, I'm not feeling you, I'm not hearing you. Back in the day, even when I was a little girl, one of the things they would say, I'm not feeling you. And it's true. When you're talking to people that's just doing a whole lot of talking, you don't feel it. But when you're talking to people and you know they're talking, saying whatever it is, you can feel it. You can feel what they're saying. And so that's important to us. He's restoring us as a people, and he's restoring our truth. Not a truth that was made up, but he's restoring our truth as a people. Once again, I want to say Todah for your comments and for your questions. Also, I want to say to you on this Yom Shabbat, let the shalom of Yahuwah and his rest engulf you and keep you this day. Once again, we want to say Todah for being in our Yom Shabbat class on today. We love you. We love Abba Yahuwah. We love all that he's doing and all that he's done. Once again, I am Prophetess Sabrina Brown, also the shepherd of Messengers of Yahuwah's Kingdom, Hebraic Belief Ministries, located in South Carolina. Once again, keep your head up, keep your shoulders square, keep your heart and your feet in and upon the Torah. No, you can't go wrong when you are living by it, because as you live by it, Yahuwah will continue to open your life. He will continue to cause you to develop, and he will continue to cause you to grow. Once again, you want to not grow, you want to develop. You want to develop. You don't want to be like some of those, ever seen them squash that be so big, they grow, but they don't develop. Mm-hmm. That's why the taste be so bland. Mm-hmm. You know when it's developing and when it's growing, because when you open it up, you see the seeds, the inside of it, that goodness is where you see it. It accommodates even the growth. That's right. If there is growth without development, you see it. Yes. So you have to have both development and growth. And so we appreciate Abba Yahuwah for growing us and allowing us to develop in his truth. Once again, I want to say, let your time of rest be filled with shalom. Let Yahuwah continue to speak to your heart, and let this be a day that you rest in him. Once again, I am Prophetess Sabrina Brown, also Moral 777, and I am the leader of Messengers of Yahuwah's Kingdom, Hebraic Belief Ministries, located in South Carolina. I want you to remember, here at Messengers of Yahuwah's Kingdom of Hebraic Belief Ministries, this is the place where the Torah does the body good. Until next time, may Abba Yahuwah Baruch Atah and keep you in his shalom until we meet again. Also, I want you to remember that you've been touched by Champion TV, a place where the champions reside. And it is so.